The fake, pass caught, touchdown! Green Bay, Romeo Dobbs from the 8 to the outside, wide open touchdown, Tucker Kraft.
Al Michaels on the call for a game that last night felt like it was going to be more competitive than what it actually turned out to be. Thursday night football as the Packers take down Jaden Daniels and the Washington Commanders 27-18. It's BK and Ferrario, a Friday edition here on 101 ESPN alongside Tanner Hendrickson and Bradford Bruns. I'm Alex Ferrario. Look, I give Jordan Love a lot of credit. I have not trusted him over the last couple of years. I've just shot down BK every time he has tried to hype up this Packers team to me because, frankly, it's weird love that he has for Jordan Love. I get it now, though. Like, that was an impressive performance by the Packers. Jordan Love made some big-time plays. His playmakers made some big plays, including Kraft and Jalen Reed, who had that nasty injury after he scores that touchdown. Packers' offense looked great. But once again, Packers defense to me was the storyline of that game. I mean, whether Parsons was on the sideline doing his elliptical or Parsons was on the sideline driving Daniels' face down into the turf, that defense was dominant. But from start to finish, the Packers always looked like the better team. And T-Bone, I got to give him credit now. They look like a legit contender. There's no more of me questioning if Jordan Love can carry his team to success because their defense is one of the best in the NFL. After 2 weeks, I can say this. They've got an incredible head coach with a genius mind when he's watching the game, and they got a quarterback that can make the plays because he made more plays than what Daniels was able to do last night.
Yeah, I was very impressed, and I'm with you. They look like a legitimate contender, and I've been one that's been hesitant because I've been more on like, hey, Jordan Love, good quarterback. Don't know if he can lift up the weapons around him, right? I think we've agreed on this.
Yeah.
The weapons in Green Bay aren't great. They're solid. They're fine. Tucker Kraft looked awesome last night. Shout out to anybody that drafted him on their fantasy team.
You just shouted out yourself. That's what you did that for. T-Bone was in the office just humbly bragging, like, oh, nobody wanted Kraft and I took him.
Yeah, look, sorry, guys. Sorry. But look, the Packers, not only was the offense impressive, and early on in that game, I think it was like 12 and a half yards per pass attempt. Like, it was insane because they weren't just kind of dinking and dunking their way down the field. Right, Love was picking apart that defense, and he was going deep down the field to make some big plays for the Packers offense. They've got Jacobs, who's been great. He's been a great pickup for them since they acquired him. I think it was last season or 2 seasons ago. And then that defense, to your point, holy cow, man. That defense was flying around that football field last night. Parsons was a menace. 230 yards allowed to the 404 that was gained by the Green Bay Packers. You want to talk about a dominating performance. I know that game showed it was only a 9-point game. Yeah, there was kind of that late garbage touchdown for the Commanders. That was a statement from the Green Bay Packers on Thursday Night Football.
That is exactly what I was thinking, Tanner. You look at the final 27-18, and it was in no way indicative of how that one played out from start to finish. Jordan Love, you look at the final statistics. Yeah, he has nearly 300 yards passing. He compiled 214 of those through the first 2 quarters, and then the balance you were able to achieve thereafter. And that's going to be textbook execution for the Packers guys for the remainder of the season. Whether you're able to kind of work from reverse there, being able to push it down the field and then lean on Josh Jacobs or vice versa. This team is equipped. It has the line. It has the innovator, obviously, now in Matt LaFleur there on the sideline to be able to handle that accordingly. But, Alex, to your point as well, one of the most impressive aspects of this game and now holding down 2 consecutive playoff teams from that very conference from a year ago. Detroit to begin the season looked like an absolute shambles, frankly, in week 1, and then Washington as led last night by Daniels. And this defense, this is something, guys, in spite of the addition, and a mammoth one at that in Micah Parsons. And he's just going to continue to ramp up the reps and show more and more effectiveness as the season progresses. Jeff Hafley, from the very beginning of 2024, he put his imprint on this defense. It was a unit that a year ago, guys, finished 5th in total defense, 4th in turnovers forced. So now you have another huge toy at that with which to operate. And I think you're beginning to see the ascension here of a team that is certainly well equipped to be able to battle with Philadelphia, with anybody else, any other suitors in the NFC, even though I still question down the stretch, who's going to step up, who's going to be that main guy in the passing game, because you drafted Matthew Golden to basically evolve into, to be that guy when the time comes. But right now, you have a lot of complementary pieces. Kind of feels a little bit like the baseball team in town.
I think Golden's going to be
We're
that.
not that good.
No, we're not that good. I think Golden's going to be that at some point, but right now you don't need to worry about it because Tucker Kraft's playing big-time games for him. I mean, he had 124 yards yesterday, and he was wide open, which is part of the reason we'll get to the Commanders in just a minute. You kind of wonder what the hell they were doing defensively. But look, when you lose, was it Dobb? No, it was Jalen Reed. When they lose Jalen Reed, you kind of think it's like, okay, well, this isn't going to be very good for you because that typically is their player. But again, we can doubt T-Bone, the Packers playmakers, but the matter of fact is they do it the same way the Buffalo Bills do it, to where it's like, wait a minute, it's like, who's this guy? Khalil Shakir? Like, we're getting excited about these guys. The quarterback was making the plays, and I got to give Jaden Daniels credit, or Jordan Love credit, because from the moment he started that game, he looked like he was just locked in. So it was an impressive performance by the Packers. I'm not sure how other NFC teams stack up, but if you look at the NFC tiers list now that we're kind of almost 2 weeks in, we got a whole nother weekend ahead of us, but for the longest time, it was the Eagles that were at the top, and then I kind of had Lions and Commanders floating around that spot. It's hard for me to not look at the Packers and say you might be the second best team in the NFC, if not the best team in your division for what the Lions potentially look like after this weekend.
Yeah, I think right now for me, Packers are the clear-cut number 2. I think Eagles are still clear-cut number 1 until I start to see anything start to falter on their roster. And then you've got Packers as clear-cut number 2, and then there's everybody else kind of below it, right? I think there's the first tier, the elite, the second tier close to elite, and then that third tier is kind of those teams that are mixed in there of Washington, Detroit is in that grouping, Atlanta, Tampa Bay, the LA Rams. I think all of those teams kind of right now, from what I've seen through the first full week, and then the Packers through their first 2 weeks, the Packers to me have really solidified themselves as, okay, they might be the team that is the one that can push the Philadelphia Eagles and kind of lock into that 2 seed and maybe even be able to be as the surprise 1 seed if the Eagles end up faltering somewhere.
So let's go to the other side. Commanders, you good? Because week 1, you got the win. Albeit it wasn't the fanciest victory, but hey, you still came out on top, right? Good teams win, great teams cover. They did that. But it was against the Giants. And now you got to see what you actually look like against a Super Bowl potential defense on top of the inability to stop them offensively. And that was the part that, look, Jaden Daniels didn't look great. I'll be 100%. But when Micah Parsons and that Green Bay Packers defense is coming down your throat, it's a hard thing to measure yourself against. But defensively, it felt like the Commanders were really good last year, and part of the reason why they were so successful, man, they looked lost out there. Tyler Kraft just standing in the middle of field open by himself and runs for, 70 yards that he picked up on one play. You had some weird coaching decisions of where it was just all Austin Eckler and not Krosky Merritt, which personally, it was a little bit of my underdog play that I had. I went higher on his yards, and they didn't do it, but it was just a weird overall game for the Commanders. And I don't know if I look at Daniels because I still trust the guy, but he looked lost. I don't know if I look at Dan Quinn and be like, man, are you the coach that's going to take the Commanders to the next level? I'm a little more concerned about the Commanders after that game than what I was after week number 1 and really going into this season.
Yeah, it's been a weird first 2 weeks for Jaden Daniels. You look at his numbers, he's completing less than 60% of his passes. He's thrown for 433. He does have 3 touchdowns. He hasn't turned the ball over. He's been sacked 7 times through the first 2 games of the season. The O-line doesn't look like it's holding up particularly well. And the Commanders were the team, and look, this could just be, hey, the Packers are going to make a lot of people look this way, right? We'll get a good idea on how the Lions play this weekend when they take on, I think it's the Bears. Yeah. When you see them, and if the Lions look better, it might be, oh, okay, so the Packers, it's just that good a defense, isn't it? But for the Commanders, yeah, you're kind of right. It felt like a weird game plan, and I think part of it was they probably panicked when they went down 14-3 because they really didn't run the ball at all last night. Felt like they were always kind of on their heels from an offensive standpoint, but their defense, I had some question marks about it coming into the year because when you've got Bobby Wagner as the guy that's kind of leading the charge, and look, I like Bobby Wagner, really great player. He's not a spring chicken anymore, guys. He's up there in age. Von Miller's a guy coming off the edge who played a lot of snaps for them in week 1, and he's up there in age. So I'm a little worried about the Commanders in case I think they're still a good football team. Don't get me wrong. It does feel like this could be kind of the setback year. Everybody's thinking, oh, boy, look at what they did last year.
Sophomore slump.
Yeah, and I don't even know if it's fair to call it a sophomore slump, but I think they just look like the team that everybody expects, right? Everybody expects a linear. Hey, they're a team that gets to, they beat the Lions in the playoffs. Of course they're going to take off, right? They're going to be right there in the NFC Championship game this year. And I look at them and go, yeah, I don't know that they improved all that much. And I'm not sure how much of the step back they took, but they didn't make that significant step
If they
forward.
struggle, do you blame Dan Quinn? Or do you, because look, I mean, Jaden Daniels, I mean, he was good in week 1, but it was only 233 yards, 1 touchdown. He went 19 for 30 with his completion rate. And then yesterday it was 229 yards, but a bulk of those came in the fourth quarter when the game was already out of hand.
Why not blame the wonderkind? Potentially, that would be Cliff Kingsbury, because this is the guy now entrusted with continuing to develop, to continue to really hasten and expedite that process of Jalen Daniels. And I just fear, honestly, for the Washington contingent out there, you're going to see this on entirely too many occasions this season, because as great as Daniels was as a rookie, as unbelievable as he can be as a dual threat, I don't exactly love, I'm not enamored with the offensive line there. And because you don't have any true bell cows now in the backfield, make what you will of the decision to part with Brian Robinson Jr. Okay, he wasn't explosive. Well, he'll go out to San Francisco and he will get his later in the season when McCaffrey inevitably suffers an injury. But you have the offensive options there out wide at wide receiver. But by the same token, we all knew, I think, guys, after the holdout, after the injury at that, McLaurin wasn't going to be at full speed to begin the season. Deebo Samuel, thankfully for the Commanders, looks a bit more like his old self from a couple of years ago in San Francisco. But if you are relying consistently for stretches this season, I think this is truly what you're going to witness. Basically, for Jalen Daniels to have to play, Jaden Daniels to play hero ball to rescue this team if it gets into, deficits early on in contests. That could be deadly.
And I think the McLaurin point there of kind of his early season struggles, I think part of it is the holdout. He also got to a slow start last year, and I saw Stelly. He had over 1,000 yards in the next 15 games last season, or 14, whatever it ended up being. I think the offense is going to look better when they're not going against a team like the Packers. But to your question on, who do you blame if they aren't able to take that second step, it will come down to Dan Quinn and also come down to Cliff Kingsbury, because Kingsbury is supposed to be the offensive mind, to Bradford's point, that helps develop Jaden Daniels to that next level.
The savant.
But Dan Quinn, gosh, I can't believe Kingsbury's still viewed as that, but it's true.
Washington in Arizona, there was no savantness about it.
Yeah, but it also comes down to the head coach, right? Who's the guy that brought in the offensive coordinator?
It's Dan Quinn.
Dan Quinn. So,
I mean, look, you're the coach. I know you got offensive coordinators, but you're the coach. You make that final decision. And there were just some questions. Kroski-Merritt not being used as much was very odd for how good he was in week 1. So regardless, it was not a good week to start off for the Commanders. And, of course, the Air Comfort Service text line coming in hot from the 314. Pretty sure you're all idiots said the Commanders were going to win easily last night. It will be easy for JD was said, I believe. Yeah, I said it, and I believed it because I didn't believe in the Packers. And guess what? I can change my opinion because now they've officially got a believer in me. I don't think they're going to go 17-0 like BK talked about, but I do think they're going to be one of the tougher teams to deal with in the NFC. I think they're going to be what the Lions were last year, to where it was like, good luck trying to find a way to beat that team this season, but more so defensively than offensively. But it all can change off of one injury. We got plenty more NFL conversation and college conversation coming your way. It's a Football Friday here on BK and Ferrario, which makes us so happy. We do have our football pick'em coming up in 15 minutes, so Bradford just gets to sit back and watch the world burn with me, T-Bone, and BK's picks for upcoming week 2 of our football pick'em. But coming up next, Cardinals are expected to make a roster move later on today before they start this weekend series against the Milwaukee Brewers, and then maybe possibly another one after this weekend, and both could impact playing time. How the Cardinals going to handle this, and T-Bone's got some numbers from the second half he'll present to us next here on 101 ESPN.
You can now listen to 101 ESPN on demand. Get caught up on all our shows and podcasts at 101ESPN.com or on the 101 mobile app. 101 ESPN podcasts are presented by the Schaefer Door Company. 101 ESPN has your chance to win free tickets to see comedian Joe Coy performing next Friday night, September 19th at the Stiefel Theater. Find all the ticket details and your shot to score free tickets to Joe Coy right now at 101ESPN.com or on your 101 mobile app, powered by Dobbs Tire and Auto Centers. They are St. Louis. It's BK and Ferrario on 101 ESPN.
So the Cardinals, of course, off yesterday, not in action after their series sweep against the Seattle Mariners, and they are going in action later on tonight against the Milwaukee Brewers. And the roster move that is expected to take place before the game today is Brendan Donovan being brought back after his groin injury that he's had. Again, it's not reported yet, but the expectation is that he is going to return on Friday. Alongside Tanner Hendrickson and Bradford Bruns, I'm Alex Ferrario. Brendan Donovan in two Springfield Cardinals games, went 0 for 4, drew 3 walks before he rejoins the Cardinals. So he's expected to come back. And then John Denton was talking about over that after this weekend, it's expected that Nolan Arenado could be activated and join the Cardinals. Again, all of this speculation until we find out the roster moves. That's where we're at right now. But it does present the interesting conversation, T-Bone, of how they're going to handle this playing time. They made it very clear that when Nolan Arenado is activated, he will be playing third base. And when Brendan Donovan returns, he will be playing. Now, the question will be second base, third base for the time being until Arenado returns. Does he go to the outfield? Neither of these guys have shown much in the rehab stints to be expected. I mentioned Donovan's stats. He was 0 for 4 with 3 walks. Nolan Arenado has gone 0 for 7 with 2 strikeouts. But they're rehab. They both haven't played for a while. You'd expect them to struggle. But I do find it fascinating to see what these playing roles are going to look like, because no longer is Nolan Gorman one of the hottest hitters on the team. He has had his ups and downs recently. You've been playing Jose Fermin in the infield along with Thomas Saggese, who Saggese has looked really good, but they're going to get the reps for Arenado. Brendan Donovan is most likely going to play, which means some of these guys that we were curious about, that's going to change down this final month of the regular season.
Yeah, they're going to run back into that log jam when Arenado comes back. Once you get Donnie back, you can kind of make this work in Milwaukee. It's not too hard to figure out your playing time there, because you've got Gorman that's at third base for Arenado, who's injured. Donnie goes back to his second base spot, and Wynn is your shortstop as long as he's able to go, if his knee's not barking at him. Otherwise, you can go with Saggese for the time being and get some good opportunities for him. But once you get back to a spot where you have Arenado back coming up on Monday potentially, now you're back into the same problem you were having early on, which is you're now down to a roster crunch or a log jam here, because now you almost have to pick somebody to be the odd man out. And they've kind of had this going on in the outfield where, you've got Burley, Scott, Newton, Walker. You've got 4 guys for 3 spots that they're trying to work this for. Well, now you're going to have 5 guys for 4 spots in the infield once you get Arenado back, because Arenado, as you said, he'll go to third base. Now you got to decide between Mason Wynn, Nolan Gorman, Brendan Donovan, or really Brendan Donovan and Nolan Gorman is your choice. I'll be interested to see how they play this out. If you want to call it, it's not good news, but one thing that will help alleviate some of this pressure, if they want to play him at shortstop, and I don't know that they will. I think they'll have Saggese go to short, but Wynn's going to have to continue to get multiple days off because of this knee issue that he's got going on that keeps barking at him. So maybe you could go Donnie at short, and you can have Gorman play second base. My guess is they're not going to do that. So you're going to see probably Nolan Gorman get back to the bench, right? And you mentioned he's kind of cooled off since he had that hot month last month. But they are once again back at this roster crunch where they're trying to figure this out, and they're going to have to just kind of go through this carousel, right? Of, okay, 1 day off for Gorman, 1 day off for Arenado. Now it's another day off for Burleson and left so we can get Walker at bats. They're back to the same spot that they have been in. They're just back to this roster crunch that they have, and they're not going to be able to lock in a bunch of guys for playing time.
Yeah, Alex, to me, the notion of Donovan playing anywhere other than at second base, you can basically toss that out of the window, because you're bringing him back from injury. You're bringing him back primarily for the bat and the stability that he offers to your lineup in that regard. So really, we go back to that usual suspect. Insofar as Gorman, it seems destined to have to ride the pine for quite a bit down the stretch. Now, I do think that Saggese being able to spell Win until the moment arrives at which you finally decide, okay, you shut it down for the rest of 2025, that is going to be Saggese's spot in the interim. But right now, it becomes a question of to what degree do you want to see Gorman getting those reps? I would have to say a designated hitter, because I don't really have a problem, frankly, with the fact that once again this month, albeit through just 9 games, you have a staggering number of strikeouts. He has already struck out 15 times this month, guys. That comes with the territory. But what's different right now is that the slug has absolutely cratered to the point where you're not seeing the results that we're starting to get in late July, in August, when he was providing that thump to you in the order while playing every single day at the hot corner too. So are you willing to live with or commit to X number of at-bats for him at the designated hitter spot, and from whom do you then take away?
You take out Herrera.
Well, and I think Herrera has to be a DH because you're not going to play him in the outfield, and I know he's still dealing with that injury that kept him out for a while. Like, that's the hard part. The guys that you're... Like, I look at the lineup that they played a couple of days ago against Seattle with. Lars Nootbaar, I think we're all in agreement. I've seen enough. I don't need to see him play. But Jordan Walker's had his ups and downs, so it's not like we could just pinpoint Jordan Walker and put him in the lineup. Herrera kind of has to be your DH for you. Wilson Contreras is staying there. Between Gorman and Sajaci, I'd like to see both of them continue, but Mason Wynn still wants to play, and with the 15-plus games left they have in the regular season, and then you're inserting Arenado and Brendan Donovan. So it's either you're slow playing the Arenado and Donovan returns, or you're not playing Gorman and Sajaci. And Sajaci's probably fine. We know what we've seen with Thomas Sajaci, and frankly, this is going to be his role next year.
And the runway year wasn't about figuring out Sajaci. You've still got time on him.
You're going to be a utility piece for the Cardinals next season, much like Brendan Donovan was those first couple of years. So really it comes down to Nolan Gorman. Is it wrong for me to say that I'm not that upset about it? Because this is who Nolan Gorman is. We know the power potential. When he makes contact and he's right, he's going to give you a ton of bombs. But he's also the dude that goes up and down, just like Jordan Walker, where he's hot for a while, he's cold for a while. So I don't want to see Nolan Arenado at third base, but I think he's going to be there no matter what. And if Nolan Gorman's the one that's coming out of the lineup, then right now you're just going to have to suck it up. All of these guys that we're talking about, we've gotten the answers on. Like, I think the runway answers have been made for this team. The real question is going to be, can you make the necessary moves this offseason to move these pieces out and bring something different that gives you a little bit more optimism in?
Yeah, I'm with you. There's not much that you need answers on from these guys in the final, whatever it is, 15 games of the regular season, because I think we've come to the conclusion on most of these guys. You have an idea of what they are, and it comes down to, like, for Gorman, for example, all right, how much do you really value a guy like him? Because when he is right, he can be a guy that can carry a lineup, and I think you kind of saw that in the beginning portion of August. But he's also going to go through stretches, like Alex said, in his last 14 games where he's got a 441 OPS. He's batting 154, and he struck out 25 times in 52 at-bats. So he's striking out nearly 50% of the time. Oof. How much do you value that guy? And those are the decisions they're going to have to make in the offseason. I think when it comes to right now, you just continue to kind of rotate the chairs around, right? One game you're going Donovan at second. Maybe the next game you're thinking, okay, we're going to kind of slow play this, so Gorman's back out there. It's going to be the same juggling act that Ali Marmol's had to do. And what I think, and I'm curious to see if they'll continue to do this. I expect they will. They're going to lock in Herrera at DH, and they're going to lock in Burleson at left field, because those are the two guys that they view as everyday players, and they're not wrong for that. You know, both those guys have earned that opportunity, and Contreras probably lock at first base as well, I should add. Yeah. Those three guys, and then it just comes down to, okay, how do we balance the playing time for everybody else? It'll be interesting to see how they decide to go about it, and especially when you consider they're probably going to lock Arenado in at third base as well.
Yeah, if I'm honest with this one, I'd like to see a little bit more Nathan Church for the rest of the way. I think he's been fine. I don't think it's anything that's like, oh, he's going to play as an everyday outfielder. He's not going to unseat Victor Scott, but I'd rather see him than Lars Nootbaar in the outfield. And I know Jordan Walker, you probably want the playing time, but I think we have our answers. He needs to work behind the scenes. So that's where the Cardinals are at right now. T-Bone, you brought up some numbers that popped out to you from Bernie Michaelis yesterday about the second half for this Cardinals team.
Yeah, so Bernie had a great piece yesterday, and it was kind of looking at players in their first half versus their second half, and just kind of breaks down where they are in terms of their WRC plus, weighted runs created plus, and 100's league average. Anything below is below average, and of course above is above average. So just wanted to get your thoughts on some of these. Mason Wynn in the first half was at a 97 WRC plus. Now he's at a 79 WRC plus here in the second half.
To me, that's concerns? Injury.
I'm kind of with you
there. To me, that's injury. I think we know what Mason Wynn is in terms of his bat. Now, the concern is like injuries. It popped up 2 years ago. It's popped up this year. Is he going to be a guy that gets injured a lot, or is he just dealing with this right now?
Because he was slightly above average, actually, offensively through the first 2+ months.
Yeah, I think it's injuries with him as well. I do think it's starting to become a question of, okay, can he stay healthy? Credit to him, he But if you continue to deal with a back issue, a knee issue, now all of a sudden you can see what happens where it can kind of sap your power. It can sap what your ability is at the plate. One that I want to bring up because I find it interesting is Pedro Pages. Pedro Pages in the first half of the season was at a 63 WRC plus. In the second half, he is at a 110 WRC plus. And since August, guys, I looked this up the other night, he is hitting 315 with a 366 on base and a 566 slug, and is at a 932 OPS. What do you make of the sudden surge from Pedro Pages?
I love it. It's not like I'm going to sit here and act like all of a sudden the Cardinals have unlocked this power potential in the middle of their lineup that they have as the catcher position, but I don't. Before this surge, I looked at Pedro Pages as you're just a defensive catcher, right? We've made the comps to Martin Maldonado an awful lot. If he's got a little bit more offense in him, that's great. I'd like to see more of Jimmy Crooks, but I know Jimmy Crooks is kind of a slow play for next season. So if I'm going a 1-2 punch of Pages where the offense is picked up, I don't think he's this. I think you're probably somewhere in between, but he's got offensive capabilities and he's fine defensively for you. I'm not going to act as if he's great. He's fine. Then you got a tandem for next year. You've got a Pages, a Jimmy Crooks, and you can move forward with it.
The average is entirely surprising, and that is, at the end of the day, probably the anomaly here. Okay, we can make peace with that. But last season, if you actually examine the sample size, now, it was decidedly less, but this is somebody who contributed 7 home runs. So it's not as if we came into the season thinking, okay, Pedro Pages is completely devoid of pop. But if you're able to get that in tandem, again, as Alex mentioned, with a Crooks, the development of the youngsters, coupled with the ability to handle the staff and call games, it can only be a bonus. What he's able to do from an average standpoint, actually generating those runs, that can only be a bonus.
Okay, Alec Burleson, his first half, 124 WRC plus. Second half at 107 WRC plus.
This one concerns me a little bit, and it's just, we had this conversation a couple of months ago, T-Bone, where BK and I were looking at is like, do we have positive answers, negative answers, or is there still more to be known? And I felt like with Alec Burleson, there was still more to be known. I wanted to know what it looked like in the second half, because last year he fizzled out at the end, and he talked about how it's like, look, I just got to understand how to play 162 games. I think that's what's happening here. I like Alec Burleson as a player. He's improved his defense, and offensively, he's above league average in my opinion. So it's a little concerning because is he a guy that fizzles out at the second half, which is not where you want one of your role players to fizzle out in. But I still think Alec Burleson has the upside from first half to second half. So I'm concerned with it, probably like a 3 or a 4 on this meter.
Yeah, there's moderate concern for me, too, because this is the second consecutive year summer in which Burleson, the production has tailed off pretty dramatically in the second half. Whereas, though, last year, guys, you knew that he finished September with that 202 average. This season, what has been different for me, even in the midst of some of the second half struggles, the fact that he is, one, getting more ABs, and rightfully so, against the south side of the pitching department, lefties there, and he's hitting 285. Now, he's not necessarily going to be driving out of the ballpark with the utmost regularity, but you're seeing more pop. I would dare I say, you're seeing improvement from that side of the plate, so that does give me more optimism.
Yeah, I don't know what to make of this one because, like, I would say, hey, this is somewhat concerning because it is another year in which it has kind of fallen off. And last year I said, hey, it's just a guy learning to play 162. It happens. You see it all the time across baseball. You would think it'd be a little bit better for him this year because, like, last year, his second half, 626 OPS to 814 in the first half. What makes me feel a little bit better about it this year is it's not as significant a drop-off. It is a drop-off, 805 OPS in the first half to 738 here in the second half. But I can't help but wonder how much the wrist was bothering him. Remember, he went on the IL. It was the minimum of 10 days that he was on the injured list with that whatever the wrist injury was. I can't help but wonder, okay, did that really hurt him? Because he only has 3 home runs, and I think it's his last 115 plate appearances. So I'm kind of with you, Alex. I would say like I'm on like a 3 on the scale of 10. It's something to monitor, but there's somewhat of a, okay, I have an idea as to why maybe this has happened. And then the final one I wanted to bring up to you guys, Ivan Herrera in the first half was at a 159 WRC plus, and in the second half, he is just 7% above league average at 107.
To me, that's Mason Wynn again. I think 159 WRC plus might be a little too outrageous, but I think he's close to that. But, I mean, even when he's been injured in the second half, though, still 107 WRC plus is impressive. I'm not worried about that. One's probably like at a 1 for me because I know he's been injured in the second half. And I think he's back more into being that elite bat that we saw in the first half for an entire season.
You love the 4 home runs this month alone. But to me, long-term, guys, he projects as somebody who is going to be a line drive gap-to-gap hitter, and that's perfectly fine. If you can have somebody like that as a linchpin in this offense, it absolutely is going to be to your benefit. Now, quick one for you here, guys. for the remainder, last 15-ish games of the schedule, any thoughts whatsoever to actually planting him? I know it's a logjam. I know that you would confuse the situation a little more. We saw a couple of cameos in the outfield. Any chance that you would be willing to plug him in there a game or two here and there to free up conceivably maybe some of those DH at-bats for a Nolan Gorman, which in turn throws Jordan Walker completely off to the side? It's a thought.
I think it all depends because, Alex mentioned, he wondered if he was hurt, and that's been the thing that's kind of led to this. And it is kind of weird how they did some outfield play, and then he hasn't been in the outfield for a while. If they're concerned about injury, then you don't put him out there, right? You DH him and you just figure out your logjam. If they think he's healthy, then I don't have an issue with going with an idea of, hey, on a Palante start, like Palante starts tonight. We know he's going to be on the ground. Let's put Herrera in the outfield and see how it goes. It just depends on the health of the player. I don't have many concerns on Ivan Herrera. I was a little concerned about his lack of slug in kind of July and August there, but he's starting to hit he's got 4 home runs in the month of September, as Bradford said. He's starting to look better. I think you're just kind of seeing Herrera, an adjustment was finally made to him, and he's starting to adjust back. I don't know how much health was really a factor into this one because they're not really saying much on him. I just think this was, hey, baseball kind of adjusted. And you're seeing Ivan Herrera, he's probably not the superstar that we thought, oh, boy, could that be the guy? He's still probably your best chance at it. He's probably going to settle into what Bradford was saying, right? He's going to be a line drive, gap-to-gap guy with some decent pop, like 20 home run power. And he's going to be 20 to 30% above league average, probably closer to that 20 mark. And it's not really a superstar. It's a really good complementary piece and what would be a win for the Cardinals in their development.
The Cardinals back at it this weekend against the Milwaukee Brewers. Tonight, Andre Palante going up against Quinn Priester. We'll talk more Cardinals with Brad Thompson coming up at 1:15. In 15 minutes, we'll get to Ask Us Anything. You send us any questions, 314-399-9646, our Air Comfort Service text line, or over on our YouTube channel at 101 ESPN STL. Our studio cams are brought to you by Air Alliance Team. We'll get to your questions in about 15 minutes and give you a shot to your first of 2 chances today to win a pair of tickets to Blues and Brews. But coming up next, we got to do it. It's our football pick'em for week 2. I should be excited because I did so well, but I know how this goes.
Have a cushion over
I know how this one goes, though. So we'll get to our football pick'em, and you can find out how you fade us next on 101 ESPN.
101 ESPN is powered by Kaufman Townsley St. Louis's injury lawyers. Call 314-500-5000.
I'm John Morgan of Morgan & Morgan. Why should you hire America's largest injury law firm for your case? There's lots of reasons. Just like there's a reason millions of people called us last year in their time of need. When it comes to fighting for justice and compensation, millions of people across the country trust us to go to battle for them. We became the largest injury law firm in the world for a reason. There's only one Morgan & Morgan. For the people.com. Injured? Dial.
tomorrow, it's a college football doubleheader. Game 1, Tennessee and Georgia. Game 2, LSU and Florida. Coverage starts at 2. The NCAA plays on 101 ESPN. 101 ESPN Sports Center.
Cardinals look to slow Brew Crew's roll. Good morning, I'm Bradford Bruns. Your Sports Center update is driven by Johnny Londoff Chevrolet and Johnny Londoff Autoplex. Tonight at 7:10, the Cards kick off a 3-game road series against NL Central rival Milwaukee. Pat Murphy's team boasts baseball's best record despite being swept by Texas. Andre Palante will face fellow righty Quinn Priester. College pigskin Mizzou has moved its Saturday matchup versus Louisiana to noon. Top Week 3 clashes include Georgia, Tennessee, Florida, LSU, plus Texas A&M, Notre Dame. Number 9, Illinois also hosts Western Michigan. This Sports Center update was driven by Johnny Londoff Chevrolet plus Johnny Londoff Autoplex. See them at londoff.com. Chevy, together we drive. Are you kidding me?
Giving you the picture, the real big St. Louis sports picture. It's BK and Ferrario on 101 ESPN.
Kick off your weekend of just all football, then with some anxiety. With Tanner Hendrickson and Bradford Bruns, I'm Alex Ferrario. It is week 2 of our football pick'em here on BK and Ferrario. For those that might be just joining us and don't understand how this one works, every Friday, BK, Tanner, and I, we pick the 3 games, whether it's college football slate or NFL, has to be Sunday before we get back on Monday. The 3 games that we feel the most confident in. Now, it has to be with the spread, so you're either going with it or against it. It's not just a pick 'em in this one. You have to put the spread into it. You make your most confident pick, which is worth 3 points, your second most confident pick, 2 points, and then your least confident pick, your 1-point play. You get all of them right, a total of 6 points. You get all of them wrong, typically like BK, you get 0 points. And at the end of every month, we add up the totals. The loser has to suffer a punishment that we have created. And at the end of the season, there's one big punishment that the least amount of points will have to suffer. From week 1, I walked away with 5 points. I got my 3 and my 2-point play correct. T-Bone got his 1-point play, which was his Fighting Illini. Probably should have made that your 3-point play, T-Bone.
Yeah.
But he did get 1 point, and that's one more than BK, who went that big ol' goose egg. So let's get into week number 2, and we'll start with BK. Last night, he texted us his picks. We will stick with the lines that he sent us last night. So if they have shifted, he doesn't get the shift. That's the punishment for not being here. You get the lines that they were last night. T-Bone, BK's 1-point play. He is going with Arizona taking on Kansas State. And he's got Arizona plus 1.5 points on the road taking on K-State.
At home. At home.
Oh, it's at home. I'm sorry. He wrote versus, and I looked at that wrong.
So I kind of like this one because K-State looks like they are going to be one of the worst Power 4 conference teams in America. But the reason that I backed away from this, and this game is tonight, so we're going to get an idea on his points early on. I looked at this one. The reason I backed out, though, K-State's getting a running back tonight. Edwards is supposed to come back. That's the expectation. If he does, that changes how I view K-State a little bit, and enough to where I'm looking at it going, okay, Arizona's pretty bad, too. K-State might be able to get the edge. I kind of get where he's coming from, though, because K-State looks so bad. I don't mind the play here. It's 1-point play.
You guys are listening to me now, right? I said before Dublin, for real, as much as people wanted to talk about Avery Johnson at quarterback, everything went south once Edwards exited at RB. Wildcats, baby.
I think I'm going to start cheating in this game. I'm going to start texting Bradford and get college football lines here. And I just won't tell you guys, other than me telling you right now on the radio, when I start doing college football, it's because of Bradford.
Our little secret.
Yeah.
I'm not
worried.
worried.
I just told our secret on the air, but that's fine. Whoa, easy there. All right, T-Bone, what do you got for your 1-point play?
My 1-point play, I'm going to the NFL. I've now been able to see every team. Didn't really help me in the college slate last week, but I am looking to probably the game of the week in the NFL slate. Eagles at Chiefs. Give me the Eagles minus 1.5. They look like a dominant team. I just cannot buy into that Chiefs offense. Fly, Eagles, fly.
Dude.
Give me the Eagles -1.5.
I wanted to do this so bad last night, but it's in Kansas City. As much as I think they're going to go 0-2, I just can't believe they're going to go 0-2. So I stayed away from this one because it worried the hell out of me. You're absolutely correct in everything you said. The Eagles are the better team and a 1.5-point favorite. I like that one, even if it's in Kansas City, but it scared the hell out of me. But it's a 1-point play, so it's a good one. I'll give you my 1-point play, one that also scares the hell out of me, and it's in the NFL because most of these NFL spreads scare the hell out of me. I am going with the Falcons plus 3.5 against the Vikings on the road for my 1-point play. Here's my thought process. J.J. McCarthy looked awful in 3 quarters. He looked great in 1 quarter in a game that I think he just took advantage of a Bears team that just became a disaster. I don't think that's the Falcons. Everything about that Falcons team looked really good. Now, I haven't seen an update. Is London playing? I looked last night, and they said it was just kind of up in the air still. Regardless, I like Michael Penix Jr. I like that defense, and I think Bijan Robinson will be the best player on that field. So a 3.5-point underdog. I believe they win this one straight up, or at least keep it close. So that's my 1-point play.
Yeah, I looked at that one as well. I was concerned that the Vikings defense is so good that it can keep them in every game.
And
that's where I looked at that and said, I could see where they end up winning this one by a touchdown just because the defense is so good. That's why I hesitated on it. It's why I ended up keeping it out of my top 3. But I did look at this one. I don't mind the play either.
I mean, it was just I'm totally with you there, and I'm just hopeful that a defense can at least allow an offense to stay within 3 points of this one. By the way, London was limited as of yesterday when I looked at it.
Boy, you stuff the box against Bijan, though. Make Penix beat you over the top. Dicey.
It's going to be a scary one, but again, my 1-point play. 2-point play for BK. He is headed to the NFL, and T-Bone, he's taking your Rams. -5.5 that are headed on the road, the West Coast to the Midwest. And I know you said this doesn't bother Sean McVay, but the Rams -5.5 points on the road as his 2-point play.
Yeah, I thought about this one. The Rams just looked kind of clunky in that game, and I don't know if that was
scared me.
Yeah, I don't know if it was the Texans defense that did that, or hey, the Rams starters, they don't play, and weird things happen early on in the year, and Cam Ward looked pretty good to where I thought, this is just, it's too much for me. 5.5 is a little high, and it's the reason that I did not end up putting it in my selection here.
Puka's good, but is he really good? Because that dude got lit up at the end of that game. So
yeah, he took a beating.
2-point play -5.5 for the Rams. That's BK's play. T-Bone?
My 2-point play, I'm sticking with the NFL. And look, one team was really impressive last week. The one that I'm selecting, though, wasn't, and that is the Broncos, -1.5 at the Indianapolis Colts. Look, the Broncos offense kind of sleptwalk through that game against the Tennessee Titans. I think Sean Payton's going to get things figured out. I'm not saying Bo Nix is going to be a top 10 quarterback of anything. He's a game manager. He should be able to get them into Indianapolis. They should be able to take care of business, and it's only a 1.5 line, so it doesn't really scare me. They should be able to win by at least a field goal, and I'm not buying Danny Dimes. Danny Dimes went up against the Dolphins, who just quit last week, so I like the Broncos on the road -1.5 points against the Indianapolis Colts.
That's the one that I was not touching because I don't buy into Danny Dimes. I also buy into the Colts defense. And Bo Nix, I think I'm going to stay away from that one. I think he's going to be a little afraid to throw the ball, which if you're running the ball, I think that's where the Colts thrive, playing defense. So I actually like the Colts in this one.
Should be the same principle as it pertains to the running game there. You sell out, you stop Taylor, because the defense for Denver, hey, that wasn't a problem in week number 1, making life a living heck for Ward.
All right, 2-point play for me. Sticking in the NFL, I am going with the Cincinnati Bengals -3.5. Here's my thought process. You're in Cincinnati. As much as Jacksonville looked great in week number 1, I still don't trust Trevor Lawrence. Now, Bengals have an awful defense, but to me that tells me this is going to be a shootout, and I will put all of my money in Joe Burrow in that offense at home. I don't think they're going to have an underwhelming game once again. I think this is going to be a high-scoring game, and can the Jaguars keep up with the Cincinnati Bengals offensively? So -3.5, 2-point play for Cincinnati.
Yeah, I looked at that one too, and because I don't trust the Bengals defense, I could not do it. I just couldn't.
The Jaguars were the biggest anomaly to me because I'm like, was this defense real? Are they going to keep doing this, or is it going to be a shootout? Because if both defenses can't perform, I'll take Cincinnati's shootout versus Trevor Lawrence's shootout. But my hiccup is, what does Jaguars defense look like?
Yeah, and respectfully to that Jags secondary, Travis Hunter aside there, I don't think you have the horses to run with the secondary threats for the Bengals. T. Higgins, very quiet in week 1. one, he'll go off here.
Yeah, that's what I'm hoping for. All right, 3-point play, the big dog. Let's go over to BK, who is picking the Cowboys minus 4.5 at home against the Giants. T-Bone, up front and honest, that to me screams trap game.
Really?
I think everybody is going with the Cowboys for how good that offense looked. I know they're playing Russell Wilson again against the Giants, but I don't trust Dallas as a team. And I felt like last one was the Eagles. You got to show up for it. This one feels like we're going to beat the Giants easily because it's the Giants, and it scares me as a trap game. So minus 4.5. Ooh, I think this is going to be a field goal.
Yeah, I kind of thought the same thing because I don't trust the Giants' offense, but the defense should be able to keep this close. I can see where they make it uncomfortable for Dak Prescott. I just don't trust the Cowboys enough. It's funny that I'm saying, like, the side that's favored. I don't trust Dallas enough to really buy into the 4.5 points. I don't trust the Giants. I couldn't get on either side of that game. I have no faith in either one of those teams, so I didn't want to touch that with a 10-foot pole.
All right, T-Bone, 3-point play, baby.
My 3-point play, you said it when we came into the segment. Boy, I should have trusted the Illini to be my 3-point play last week.
Watch out.
You know, I should have. I believed it with my chest for about 2 weeks they were going to kick the crap out of Duke. They did. They look like a playoff team, and they're playing a nobody from the MAC this weekend. Give me the Illinois Fighting Illini minus 27.5 at home against Western Michigan. When you're a playoff team, you dominate these kind of games. They should win this by 4 scores. I believe they will. Illinois minus 27.5.
Bradford's face does not trust it.
Man, Champagne's going to be rocking tomorrow night, huh? 6 p.m. kickoff.
Yeah.
All right, I see you. Beatty,
That's
third
right.
straight 100-yard game.
That's right.
That's a big number, buddy. Good luck with
Good
that.
teams win. Great teams cover.
That is right, and they are a great team.
That one feels like a makeup from last week. You should have did Illinois as the 3-point last week. This week, maybe not so much. But
Gotta
that's
have heart.
T-Bone's 3-point play. My 3-point play is sticking in the NFL. Obviously, big spread. But when I saw it, I said this is going to be an easy win for me. Detroit taking down Chicago minus 6.5. Guess who was awful in week 1? Caleb Williams and that offense. Guess who was awful in week 1? Detroit's offense and defense. They're at home. It's a short week for Chicago. I think this is the game that Detroit takes all of the people that were doubting in week 1 and says, oh no, they're good. Good luck defensively trying to stop all of the weapons for Detroit. And I think the Lions get their defense back on track. I think this one was an easy cover for me.
Yeah, I'm not sure how much I trust the Lions. I like the Bears' defense. I think they could make it tough on the Lions again, where I think this is too high a spread. If I were taking, I would go Bears plus 6.5 on this one.
A lot of people are theorizing that Ben Johnson's going to have something for Jared Goff, but you also need the personnel. And I am not exactly relishing what Chicago has on that side of the football. After the first set of, 15 plays, all the pre-scripted stuff, you saw exactly the same version of Caleb Williams from a year ago. Luther Burden, give him more than one target, please.
All right, so those are our play. How you feel about yours?
I feel good.
I'm like a 5 out of 10 confidence-wise because I hated the NFL spread this week.
I mean, the one, if I'm being honest, the one that I'm like, boy, did I make a mistake, is the Illinois huge spread. But I just think they're that good a team they cover. When you get to like a 1.5-point spread, it's like hard for things to go wrong.
Yeah.
So like that's why I feel pretty good about what I chose. So I'm happy with mine.
T-Bone win is Illinois Fighting Illini minus 27.5 against Western Michigan. That's his 3-point play. His 2-point play is Indianapolis Colts minus 1.5, and his 1-point play is Eagles minus 1.5 at KC. BK's 3-point play, Cowboys minus 4.5 versus the Giants. His 2-point play, Rams minus 5.5 against the Titans, and then Arizona plus 1.5 against K-State. My plays, 3-point play, the Lions minus 6.5 against the Bears, Bengals minus 3.5 against the Jaguars, Falcons, my goodness, plus 3.5 at the Vikings. So those are our plays, and as you would imagine, fade them over on Underdog. Promo code BKO. Coming up in 15 minutes, what should we be focused in on for both Mizzou and Illinois this weekend? We'll get into that and a little bit more college football action. But coming up next, ask us anything. You send us your questions, 314-399-9646. We'll answer them next here on BK and Ferrario and give you a chance to wear a pair of tickets to Blues and Brews on 101 ESPN.
Want more Blues talk? Check out the Last Minute Blues podcast with Alex Ferrario, Donny Fandango, and Jeremy Rutherford on 101 ESPN. ESPN. The guys bring you the latest news and nuggets on your St. Louis Blues.
The Last Minute Blues podcast is presented by Blue Note Roofing. Roofing, siding, and gutters. Your St. Louis roofing experts. Visit BlueNoteRoofing.com for a free inspection. Watch or listen to the Last Minute Blues podcast now at 101ESPN.com.
We're right back to more of it. It's BK and Ferrario on 101 ESPN. You've got questions, we may have the answers. Maybe. It's BK and Ferrario's questions and answers on 101 ESPN.
Let's see how good of listeners our listeners are, because right now is your shot to win a pair of tickets to go see Blues and Brews. Next Friday, September 19th at Anheuser-Busch Brewery. Get fired up for the blues season at this outdoor street party featuring live music from the band Perry. Plus appearances by blues players and alumni, food trucks, on-stage festivities hosted by 101 ESPN's Chris Kerber and Joe Vitale, and more. Tickets are on sale now for Blues and Brews, presented by Bud Light, 101 ESPN, 92.3 WIL, and Scott Lee Heating Company. Find all the details at 101ESPN.com. If you can tell us what T-Bone's three-point play was, the team that he picked for his three-point play for our Pick'em Challenge, and your Texter 101 will give you the pair of tickets to go see Blues and Brews. You'll have a second chance to do that later on in the show. Let's get to Ask Us Anything now. 314-399-9646 is the Air Comfort Service text line. You send us any question, we'll tell you our answer. Let's start here. T-Bone from the 314. How many players are not currently on the roster that start on opening day next year? I say 2 starting pitchers and 3 hitters.
You think they'll have 3 hitters on the roster?
No, not current. Players that are not currently on the roster that will be starting on opening day.
Yeah, so I would say like Weatherholt's got a chance. It's not on the roster now. That could be here opening day.
I think it's one position player.
He's probably the one.
And they're not going to go out and acquire, unless they get one in a trade, but I doubt that's going to happen if you're trading away a position player.
Yeah, it'll be...
I say 1 position player and 1 starting pitcher.
See, it's going to have to be more than 1 starting pitcher, I think, because they're going to have to add... I think it's 2 starting pitchers. I don't know the player names. Like, Matthews will be a guy that'll be a contender for this. Weatherholt's a contender for this. Outside of that, like, pitching-wise, it's going to have to be people from outside the organization. So, if you're looking for names, I would say Matthews, Weatherholt are the 2 that and Matthews is like, I don't think any of them are locks, though, either.
Yeah. I mean, I think there's only 1 position player. I think you're talking about J.J. Weatherholt. Unless some unforeseen trade takes place, they're not going to delve into free agency to bring anybody in. And starting on opening day, I mean, the rotation, starting pitcher, I think you'll probably see. I think it's going to be 1, because I think they're going to promote a couple of guys and then maybe go out and sign 1 guy or trade for 1. I don't think you're going to see a whole lot of new faces on opening day for the Cardinals. I think it's going to be a lot of what you currently have. From the 636, do you guys think when John Kelly returns to Enterprise Center with the Kings, he's going to get the loudest ovation that anyone has ever gotten that has left the organization? Loudest anyone has ever gotten the organization. I mean, look, it's hard to judge the applause no matter what, but I do think John Kelly's going to get a loud standing ovation. We talked a little bit about this yesterday, but good for him, man. I'm so glad that he landed in L.A. Like, that is a heck of an organization to be a part of. It sucks that he's still not here. But, yeah, I mean, people are going to love John Kelly no matter what. And when he comes back, I think it's going to be a loud ovation, just like it's always a loud ovation, because Blues fans, just like Cardinals fans, man, they respect anybody who has been a part of the Blues organization as long as J.K. was.
Yeah, I think he's going to get the same kind of reception you saw from Panger the first time back with the Chicago Blackhawks. So, yeah, he'll get one of the loudest ovations of that group, because you're right. He is a staple with St. Louis, and they'll be excited to see him back in the arena.
From the 636, guys, I am so pumped for Blues prospects to be in action this weekend. Who other than Dalibor Dvorsky or Justin Carbonneau are you keeping your eye on? I mean, after our talk with Tim Taylor yesterday, which if you missed it, you could check it out on our podcast page, 101ESPN.com, podcast brought to you by Schaefer Door Company. After talking to Tim Taylor, I really am curious to see what Adam Yurichek looks like. I've seen a couple of prospect writers say that this guy still has the potential to be a top 4 pair potential. It's just a matter of what does he look like coming back from his injury. So he's one of them. And then I'm curious about Stenberg. I think Stenberg's got a chance to get a cup of coffee at the NHL at some point this season as one of those middle 6 wingers. He's definitely not a centerman, at least how they're deploying him. So those are 2 guys that I'd say I'm keeping an eye on.
You had to go a little different from Yurichek, who was the first name that I thought of. Lindstein's another.
Yeah.
I saw Lindstein, I can't remember if it was last year.
I think it was last year at that rookie tournament that they played. The one that they're going to, they played at Centene.
He, last year, was incredible and really stood out. And he stood out at prospect camp. Like, he's someone that I looked at when I saw him on the ice last year and went, whoa, that guy can really move the puck, and it looks different on the blue line. I'll be curious to see what he looks like in this prospect tournament this weekend.
Final one, guys. If you were building a team in the NFL from scratch, non-quarterback, who's the one player you would want on your team? Weird that I want to say Micah Parsons after watching him dominate over these last couple of games.
No age limit here? No age limit?
Yeah, no age limit here.
We had a similar question a couple of weeks ago.
I mean, I'm looking at a position that you desperately need if you want to win, and it's a secondary piece, it's a pass rush piece, or you go wide receiver. I think I'd want a Micah Parsons. I mean, in 2 games, I went from thinking the Packers were going to be an average team, maybe a team that could make the playoffs, versus now I think they're the second best team in the NFC.
Yeah, Parsons is a really good answer because you laid it out perfectly there. He's made the Packers into a Super Bowl contender now that they've added him. To me, you got to go with one of 2 spots, either defensive end or wide receiver. You got to go with one of those 2. If you were to go different from Parsons, I would still go Jamar Chase. That was my answer a couple of weeks ago. That guy is unbelievable. And I know he had a quiet game in their first game, 2 receptions for 26 yards. Yeah, he'll be fine, okay? Jamar Chase is a superstar wide receiver. He would probably be the guy that I would select because he's the kind of wide receiver that even a bad quarterback could find because he's going to be open.
Yeah.
Did you recall, Tanner, that I had the mini debate with BK about edge rusher versus D tackle, and I nominated one Mr. Carter? That didn't exactly age well after week 1.
Yeah,
Little Jalen Carter there.
Yeah, he's a bit of a problem.
I think you're splitting hairs between Jamar Chase and Justin Jefferson because I truly believe the latter is right there in that first category. It's more sexy, obviously, to think about the Bengals offense and the way it can move it consistently with Burrow at the helm, but Chase, Jefferson, you can't go wrong.
He's Bradford Bruns, Tanner Hendrickson. I'm Alex Ferrario. We will give you, as I mentioned, another chance to win a pair of Blues and Brews tickets coming up at the end of the show. But coming up next, what should we be watching for this weekend for Mizzou and Illinois? Stop me if you've heard this before. They don't play anybody this weekend. What are you paying attention to? We'll get into that next. And the biggest enigma in college football here on 101 ESPN.
Want more Blues talk? Check out the Last Minute Blues podcast with Alex Ferrario, Donny Fandango, and Jeremy Rutherford on 101 ESPN. The guys bring you the latest news and nuggets on your St. Louis Blues.
The Last Minute Blues podcast is presented by Blue Note Roofing. Roofing, siding, and gutters. Your St. Louis roofing experts. Visit BlueNoteRoofing.com for a free inspection. Watch or listen to the Last Minute Blues podcast now at 101ESPN.com.
BK, football is so back, and over at Underdog, it is the best place to select your entries and win money all season long. And the best part about it is you can play right now in Missouri. So we don't have a NFL favorite team. I know BK's got the Chiefs and the Packers, but I just like to go with my favorite players. So I have a 6-play entry over on my Underdog app, all rushing touchdowns. Jahmyr Gibbs higher on half a rush touchdown. Derrick Henry, Kyron Williams, Javonte Williams, and Jalen Hurts. You put 10 on that one, it pays 17-1 odds over on Underdog.
Playing Underdog is easy. All you have to do, choose your favorite players, whether they will go higher or lower on stats like touchdowns, receiving yards, interceptions, so much more. Get your entries right. You could win up to 5,000 times your cash, and you can play with as little as $1. So download the app today, sign up using our promo code BKO. That's promo code BKO, and you'll score $50 in bonus funds when you play your first $5. That's promo code BKO on the Underdog app, where millions of fans have already won billions making plays on Underdog. Will you be next? Underdog. Make plays, win money. Must be 18 or older. Present in Missouri. Terms to apply. See assets.underdogfantasy.com/web/play and get terms _DFS_.html for details. Concerned with your play? Call 1-800-GAMBLER or visit ncpgambling.org.
WXOS, WXOS HD1 East St. Louis. 101 ESPN is driven by Auto Centers Nissan, home of the lifetime warranty and 30-day return. This is exactly where you want to be, listening to us. It's BK and Ferrario on 101 ESPN.
So both Mizzou and Illinois in action this weekend, looking to improve their record to 3-0. And to be 100% honest, because I don't have the BKO power, expect to be 3-0 after this season as the Missouri Tigers take on Louisiana Lafayette Ragin' Cajuns at home, and then the Fighting Illini taking on the Western Michigan Broncos. So easy to say, T-Bone, neither of these teams are presenting a tough challenge for both ranked Mizzou and Illinois, which brings you to the question of what do you watch for in certain games like this? Because there's not a whole lot you're going to learn. I think BK always says it, like the only thing you can learn from these games are bad pieces of information rather than good pieces of information. Start on the Mizzou side, because I think it's going to be the one thing that BK has continuously talked about. It's what does your defense look like? I mean, I think all of us are on the same page with what Bo Prabula has been, how good this offense has been. But the real question is, can you just completely wipe away any hopes for a team like Louisiana Lafayette? Like, the pass rush has been a question. The secondary has been a little question, specifically after that Jayhawks game last week. To me, I'm not going to be watching a whole lot because it's just Louisiana Lafayette, and I just want to see what Mizzou looks like in this game, expecting to win. But your eyes will be directed towards the defense just to see if you can rise that competition level of what you saw against the Jayhawks, because this is the last one before you get into SEC play.
Yeah, I'm focused on the D-line specifically because BK told me coming into the year, hey, I think this is going to be a dominant D-line, right? Like, it should be the backbone of this defense, and they should be able to get pressure on the quarterback. And I've watched 2 games now, and yeah, I'm not that impressed with the D-line. It's good, don't get me wrong. They've gotten 4 sacks, but it doesn't look dominant. And when you get games where you play Central Arkansas, like, that's a game where you look at it and go, yeah, it should look dominant. Look to Illinois' game against Western Illinois. That D-line was flying around the football field, and they were quiet in the Duke game for Illinois. But for Missouri, I didn't see it in Central Arkansas. They were fine against Kansas, and BK brings up a good point in that Kansas game. Hey, that's a running quarterback. Like, it's possible, like, when you go up against Jaden Daniels, the game plan may have been, hey, keep contain rather than go and just kill the quarterback.
Right.
So maybe that was a part of it. I just want to see a better performance from them. I want to see a dominating performance where I look at it and go, wow, that defensive line stood out to me. That's really the only thing that I've got an eye on. Their line held up pretty well. It was a big question mark coming into the year. It held up pretty well against Kansas to the point where I was like, okay, yeah, I don't have any concerns. It looks like it's going to be fine. The D-line's the ones where you got to see that D-line really get pressure on the quarterback, look dominant, so you feel confident about them once you get into SEC play.
Yeah, for all intents and purposes, this is the classic stat padding game for that defensive line. And definitely, there was so much ink that was garnered by this line coming into the season. Corey Batoon, the coordinator, he gets that new extension, and rightfully so. This is a game in which, if you're going to be an All-American type, if you're going to be an All-SEC performer, Zion Young, I'm looking at you to basically have that ability to consistently get into the backfield to penetrate. But by the same token, I'm equally as interested, Tanner, in actually seeing how this offensive line responds from a mental standpoint. And I'll explain, because even though last week you put up 42 points against KU, you hold the ball for more than 40 minutes. So I was very interested after the game, being in that defensive meeting room when Eli Drinkwitz, he's standing behind the podium, and basically he wasn't dragging the O-line, but essentially said, hey, Ahmad Hardy, Jamal Roberts, piling up more than 100 yards apiece on the ground. They had to basically access the spaces and the lanes, making those cuts for themselves. He put the onus there on a very young, reconfigured offensive line. And throughout fall camp, guys, there was a lot of talk about, okay, you're going to have to find the first 5 or the best 5 here. Caden Green is still just 2 games into his tenure as a starting left tackle there for the Missouri Tigers. Now, a lot of guys graded out pretty well last weekend, which is why I found that to be surprising coming from the head coach. But by the same token as well, you're looking at an opponent from the Sun Belt, a team that, yes, won 10 games last season, but you're expecting to dominate in that mauling fashion. This is another game in which you should, with ease, run for more than 200 plus on the ground.
So on the Illinois side, T-Bone, you can talk specifically about this one. What are you looking for against Western Michigan?
Yeah, for this Western Michigan game, look, the offense is going to get its share, and you can't really learn anything from the O-line in this one, which was I thought was disappointing. I know they put up 45 points. I didn't think the O-line had a great game, so you're not going to learn much about them. One thing that I'm going to keep an eye on is their secondary. Is the secondary going to really lock down Western Michigan? Because they gave up 356 passing yards against Duke. Part of that was it was late in the game, but it felt like it really took a step back in that second half. In the first half, I thought, boy, this secondary looks really impressive. You had the D-line that was having its struggles of getting to the quarterback. In the second half, it took a little bit of a step back. That is the spot for me. Okay, what do you look like against Western Michigan? You're not going to learn a lot from it, but it is the one area that I'm keeping an eye on. What do you look like in that secondary? Can you really lock down these wide receivers? Because that's going to be the identity of this team. Look, the offense has been really good. Defensively, though, their defense, their secondary is the thing that's really propelled Brett Bielema's teams in the past. It was yes, they had a good pass rush, but also, hey, the corners were very good at breaking up passes.
You know, we got a few good matchups this week in college football, especially compared to what last week was, with really the only big one you had was Mizzou and Kansas, and then you had the Oklahoma-Michigan one. Like, you got South Carolina and Vanderbilt. You've got Georgia and Tennessee, so a lot of SEC, which we'll get into a little bit later. But, you know, when you look around T-Bone and Bradford, you look at some of these teams, and we've talked a lot about this, that there's just not one great team in college football. Who do you view as kind of the biggest enigmas right now in college football, to where all you hear is about how great they are, and it's just, you just don't look at it and feel the same way?
I think the number one team for me that stands out in this category is LSU. They're ranked at number 3, and I've not been impressed by them at all so far this year. Look, they had the big win in week 1 against Clemson. I didn't think they played that great in that game. Defensively, they were good. But then I saw Clemson down by 17 in their last game, in which they really struggled with a non-con, easy, should have been, put it away game, and Troy was leading at halftime. So part of this was, okay, is Clemson just not that good? And LSU only put up 17. Garrett Nussmeier hadn't looked that great. They kind of sleptwalked through their easy game against Louisiana Tech last week. I don't know what to make of this LSU Tigers team. For all the talk and being at number 3 in the rankings, I don't think they're that good, if I'm being honest. I think they're fine. I think they're a top 25 team, but Garrett Nussmeier's not been impressive so far this season in a year in which he was supposed to be a Heisman contender.
Well, and this just continues the theme, right? For each of the 3 to 4 seasons now under the watch of Chip Kelly there at LSU. You have paper champions to begin the season, and then what comes to fruition later on in the season? Well, it's not exactly a run into the CFP. I think that's valid for LSU. I'm also here teetering a little bit, guys, with respect to Indiana. Okay, 2-0, I think a lot of people, they want that fanciful narrative again of the Hoosiers basically making that run to the CFP. How did that work out last season? It was not an impressive performance. Week number 1 against Old Dominion. You won by a mere 13 points. I know a lot of people are excited about Mendoza taking over for Rourke at quarterback, but to me, this team has many more holes than it did just a season ago. I expect Cignetti to coach them up, but when I look at the remainder of the schedule, too, when you really ramp up, Tanner, the SEC, or excuse me, the Big Ten-centric side of the schedule there, you're talking about games, as you well know, Illinois coming up fast, Oregon as well, Penn State, and then a tricky trip as well to Iowa. Basically the exact opposite of the type of schedule with which Missouri has to contend. This is a team that is now on everybody's radar, so the fun story, it was nice while it lasted, but I'm curious to see how deep into this season Indiana can actually go in that undefeated realm.
The one for me is Georgia, and I think they're going to be good, but they're a little mysterious in the sense of, you won 28-6 against Austin Peay. You put 45 points up against Marshall. You're taking on a decent team in the SEC with Tennessee, and you're on the road. I still think they're going to be one of the better teams in the SEC, but how good are you? How good is the Georgia Bulldogs this season compared to some of these other SEC teams? Because it might really give us an answer in terms of where this SEC is at going into the actual play. So Georgia probably would be mined going into this weekend.
The wild part is, you can look at the top 25 right now, and I think we've talked about this, right? It feels like an open season. You can probably pick, 15 teams.
All of them except 25. Ohio State and Penn State are enigmas to me, and I guess Oregon, too.
Oregon, to me, feels good. Miami doesn't feel like an enigma to me. I feel kind of confident in what they are, but yet there's so many teams that I look at and I'm like, man, I don't know. Like, are you that good?
Yeah, someone said Texas, Bishop about sports said Texas. And I mean, you're right.
I think he's right.
To T-Bone's point, I think almost every team in this top 25, with the exception of like 3 or 4, I look at and I'm like, yeah, I don't know who you are, and I don't think I'm going to know who you are for probably another 3 to 4 weeks once you actually get into conference play and you get a better opinion on it.
Yeah, I look at the schedule this week, and we'll talk about the SEC because there's a lot of
there's a ton
of good games, and we'll give you some pretty good answers about what the conference looks like this week. I look at the schedule and I go, man, I feel like I see like 5 upsets. I'm like, well, that can't be right. Like, surely I'm not going to see a bunch of upsets, but am I? Like, I feel like it's possible I could because, again, everybody is such a big question mark. Clemson, by the way, number 2 on my list of enigmas because I think that team, Dabo did Troy, that one word, Troy.
Well, and LSU, to your point about them being an enigma, like, man, I love you, Gator, in our graveyard chat, but if Florida gives LSU a little bit of a difficulty, okay, I think we've learned a little bit more about LSU in this one.
Yeah.
Tanner Hendrickson, Bradford Bruns, I'm Alex Ferrario. We'll get back into the SEC in the 1 o'clock hour. Mike McKenna, Macadoodle Mike, is going to join us in about 15 minutes to talk a little NHL as the prospects get started this weekend with their prospect tournament. But speaking of upsets, I feel like we might see a good amount of them this weekend in the NFL side of things. Let's do our NFL weekend look ahead. BK can't shut us down on a Tuesday trying to get that weekend look ahead. We'll do it next year on 101 ESPN.
Start your day with the morning after on 101 ESPN. Get in the know first on everything St. Louis sports with Tim McKernan, Doug Vaughn, and Martin Kilcoy. Listen to TMA weekday mornings from 7 to 11 a.m. on 101 ESPN. The morning after is presented by Brown and Crouppen Law Firm. 101 ESPN is your home for Blues hockey. Every month during the season, you can score a pair of tickets to a Blues game at Enterprise Center. A new winner is picked every month throughout the season. Enter to win now at 101ESPN.com or on your 101 mobile app, presented by Ted Cruz Frozen Custard. They are St. Louis. It's BK and Ferrario on 101 ESPN.
We'll get to Mike McKenna on the other side. BK and Ferrario here on 101 ESPN as we head into week 2 of the NFL. It started last night with the Packers taking down the Commanders 27-18. And to be honest, there's not a whole lot of other games that you look at and you're like, oh man, that is going to be an entertaining one from start to finish. Packers and Commanders might have been towards the top of that list. But we do our weekend look ahead in the NFL, T-Bone. And let's start with what you think is the best game of this upcoming weekend.
Yeah, I think that the best game of the weekend, a lot of people are going to say, oh, it's going to be the Chiefs and the Eagles, right?
It's got the chance to be, but it also has a chance to be boring.
It's got the chance to be. I actually think the best game of the weekend is going to end up being Bears-Lions.
That's one of mine.
Because I think the Bears, look, we talked about Caleb Williams, the collapse that was in that second half. We forget he played pretty well on the first couple drives for the Bears. And the Detroit Lions, I don't think are going to look as bad as they did last week. I think this game, neither side wants to start 0-2 in a tough NFC North division. I think you're going to see the Bears keep this one close. That's why I kind of said I didn't like Lions at the minus 6.5 points. We're going to see that offense for the Lions kind of right the ship a little bit. I think Lions-Bears has a chance to be the best game of the week, and the Chiefs are just so boring that I don't really like. We talked about this earlier in the week. Man, they just dink and dunk their way down the field. They don't have great weapons right now. I just don't think they're exciting. I don't think it's the best game of the week.
I don't want to watch Mahomes throw 18 passes to Hollywood Brown so he can put together 85 yards in the game. But that might be what it is against the Eagles. Bradford?
I'm going to throw you guys for a bit of a loop on this one because I truly believe this is going to be not only a marquee showdown in the AFC East, but one of the best games, maybe the best of the weekend. Buffalo traveling to the Jets. You don't want to begin 0-2 if you are Aaron Glenn, if you're trying to obviously turn around the fortunes of that franchise after a tough loss, brutal, giving it away basically against Pittsburgh. I'm interested to see exactly if that mentality, if that run-first mentality, if Hall and Allen are able to get theirs against a very susceptible Buffalo run defense. Look, we saw a lot of different holes on that side of the football from Buffalo in the season opener versus Baltimore. I don't think we should gloss over just how many defensive miscues were committed there. And on the flip side as well, for New York now, you have Justin Fields with a lot of momentum on the heels of week number 1. Is he able to put it together, continue to find Garrett Wilson with regularity, spread it around a little more? I think this is one that New York obviously feels as if it needs to have. I'm not saying Jets straight up here, but to really prove down the stretch for the rest of the schedule that you are a legitimate team. You're a playoff hopeful in the AFC. New York needs to be in this game for 4 quarters.
Yeah, I mean, you took the 2 best for me, and the Commanders and Packers gives you the best reason why that was probably the most entertaining game of the week. And I'll give you one that might be a little off the radar. It's got the chance to be a dud, but it's Bengals and Jaguars. Jaguars look like a team that I think actually could win the AFC South this year for how bad the Texans look and how little I trust the Colts. I think this is going to be a shootout. And anytime I get an offensive shootout, fantasy-wise, but also just entertainment-wise, those are entertaining. So I think that one might have the chance to be one of the best ones of the weekend. Which player, T-Bone, coach, team, desperately needs a bounce back this week?
Can we all circle the same one? Hey, Miami.
Yep. They already had a team meeting after week 1.
Yeah.
Really?
When I saw that report, look, you get about one team meeting, players only meeting in a year.
Don't waste it early.
Yeah, you get it in baseball, you get it in football, you get it in all the sports, right? All players at some point are going to have to call a team meeting.
Yeah.
Good luck.
We're calling it in week 1. Oh boy, this thing is going south quickly, guys. And the Patriots weren't all that impressive in their showing. Man, they could easily just really end the Dolphins season. You get them to 0-2. There was already talk of guys kind of giving up on McDaniels after that week 1 performance. I could totally see where we're looking at this going, all right, yeah, well, it's just a matter of time before the Dolphins make a change at head coach.
That's the only answer on this one, but just as a side one, I think the Texans fall into this. And they're not this weekend. They play Monday, but the Texans do fall into this. Nobody trusts that team after week 1, and they still have difference makers on defense and on offense. So that's just another one that I know is not the weekend. It is on Monday. What about an X's and O's matchup in terms of receivers versus secondary, defensive line versus running back? What's kind of a matchup that you're excited to see this weekend for week number 2?
I'm going to go all the way to the Sunday night game. I'm fascinated to see what Michael Penix looks like against this Brian Flores defense because that Vikings defense is really good. Brian Flores is an excellent defensive coordinator, and I had some questions of, okay, is Penix really the guy for the Atlanta Falcons? I thought he was impressive last week. 298 yards through the air, threw for 1 touchdown, made a couple big plays with his legs late in that game against the Buccaneers, but the Buccaneers aren't the same as the Vikings with that defense. I am very interested to see how Michael Penix looks. He's going to be in the spotlight, prime time, Sunday Night Football, game of the world on Sunday night. How do you do against Brian Flores' defense?
I hinted at this one during the 11 o'clock hour of the program, and I firmly believe that Detroit needs to take it soundly to Chicago this weekend. Look, they were able to preserve the offensive continuity as far as having an in-house replacement at coordinator, but there simply is no replacement for Ben Johnson. Now you have these questions automatically coming up about whether you can more easily expose to Jared Goff. What about the running game between the tackles, let alone to the outside? If we don't begin to see the Lions really open it up still against a vulnerable Bears team, especially in my opinion, from a secondary perspective, you can ring some of those alarm bells because the lack of creativity in week number 1, the fact that nobody outside of Amon-Ra St. Brown basically was getting targeted with regularity. You extended Williams to be that number 2, that Robin to the Batman of St. Brown, but it comes down to the QB position and it comes down to the O-line as well. We understood when the longtime center retired that you were going to have to figure out a way to replace that piece. Maybe we didn't quite assign as much value as we should have to that, but right now for Detroit, if I don't see 30-plus moving it up and down the field, frankly, against Chicago, I'm starting to worry, and I'm starting to wonder, despite all of the players who are remaining from last year's team.
Well Endowed just texted this one in, which is kind of where my line of thinking was. Like, I want to see Metcalf versus the Steelers. I actually Metcalf versus the Seahawks. I want to see what that offense looks like against Seattle because everyone was super pumped about Aaron Rodgers, who really didn't have that good of a game. It was more the playmakers with him that had a great game. Seahawks have a great defense. I think the Seahawks just missed out on a week 1 matchup with San Francisco, who now are completely banged up. I think this could be a game that people are out on the Steelers offense and Aaron Rodgers. So Seahawks defense
really
versus the Steelers offense. Final one, what's the upset you think is going to take place this week?
Just for everybody, got to be higher than the 3-point line.
Got to be a 3-point line.
3-point line. And Bradford kind of was talking about this matchup. Mine's the Jets. I almost took this for the pick'em. This was like the 4th one. I had it as kind of like if I had a 0-point play. I had the Jets. I had the Jets covering. I think they can beat the Buffalo Bills, and it comes down to the fact that they're able to run the football so well in week 1. Yeah. Justin Fields was able to run with his legs. Someone's finally realized, hey, we shouldn't have him as mostly a throwing quarterback. Breece Hall looked excellent in that first game against Pittsburgh. 19 carries for 107 yards. And I think their defense is better than what it led on against Pittsburgh. So I like the Jets in this one. I think they're going to run it down the throat of the Bills that had trouble stopping the run against the Ravens. I think the Jets will pull off the upset at home over the Buffalo Bills.
I don't like this one team whatsoever for the long run, the long haul of 2025. But for the purpose of this weekend, when you are evaluating New Orleans at home against San Francisco, look, no Purdy, no Kittle. You try to stuff the box as much as you can in an attempt to basically compromise McCaffrey there. I don't love the Saints options, okay, under Moore. But by the same token, I think this could be a game well into the second half, and you rely on AK there. Maybe you pull it out. And then also something else I'm looking at right now. In spite of how effective, how good LA looked, the Chargers, I'm talking about, in that week 1 victory against the Chiefs down in Brazil. It's a tight spot, in my opinion, going up against Vegas there. The Raiders at home, if Ginty and company can really control the time of possession, their ball control, it can be a game as well into the second half. I'm keeping my eyes on that one, too.
Mine's simple. Panthers beat the Cardinals straight up. In our survivor pool, I do the survivor pool with my dad, and he's like, I like the Cardinals. And I said, I don't like the Cardinals because I think I can see the Panthers winning that game. Yeah. Arizona didn't look good enough to beat the Saints. They barely beat the Saints in week 1. So I think Carolina could make the upset in week 2 on the road. Tanner Hendrickson, Bradford Bruns. I'm Alex Ferrario. We got NFL action for you this weekend on 101 ESPN. You'll hear Steelers and Seahawks starting at 11, then Colts and Broncos, and then, of course, Vikings and Falcons. Coming up next, we'll get into Macadoodle Mike. Mike McKenna joins joins us here on 101 ESPN.
TMA welcomes the return of the Lemmings Open, Friday, October 3rd at Oak Valley Golf Course and Resort. Brought to you by Michelob Ultra, Superior Light Beer. Get your foursome together to join Tim, Martin, Doug, and Jackson for a day out on the course, including complimentary breakfast from Donut Drive-In, lunch from Lion's Choice, an after party with food from Small Sliders, all your Michelob Ultra beer and seltzers and more.
Tickets are on sale now with a portion of the proceeds benefiting Bernie's for Bipolar. Find all the Lemmings Open info now at 101ESPN.com.
can now watch 101 ESPN live on our Air Alliance Team Studio Cams. Catch every show live on our YouTube channel or at 101ESPN.com. 101 ESPN Studio Cams.
Presented by the Air Alliance Team Heating and Cooling. Getting the job done quickly, correctly, 100% of the time.
101 ESPN Sports Center.
Mizzou, Louisiana start time moved due to heat. I'm Bradford Bruns. Your Sports Center update is powered by Saliga Heating and Cooling. Facing extreme heat in Columbia, Saturday's showdown between the Tigers and Ragin' Cajuns will now kick off at noon rather than 3 p.m. Missouri sporting an undefeated record after victories over Kansas as well as Central Arkansas. Louisiana, meanwhile, trounced McNeese State 34-10 last weekend. NFL Green Bay cruises past Washington 27-18. Tight end Tucker Kraft catching 6 passes for 124 yards. Wideout Jaden Green, though, did break his collarbone. Wisconsin's baseball behemoth, NL Central leading Milwaukee, opens a 3-game series tonight against St. Louis. Cardinals right-hander Andre Palante eyes win number 7 of 2025. The Sports Center update was presented by Saliga Heating and Cooling, a Daikin heating and air conditioning dealer.
Giving you the picture, the real big St. Louis sports picture. It's BK and Ferrario on 101 ESPN. We're going between the pipes with former NHL goaltender Mike McKenna.
Made by Mike McKenna. How do you like me now?
Between the Pipes is refreshed by Macadoodle Spirits, fine wine, beer, and cigars. Now open in Darden Prairie.
It's always a great day to talk hockey, but especially on Fridays with our favorite former NHL goaltender on behalf of Macadoodles, Mike McKenna, with us now on the Collier and Thompson hotline. Along with Tanner Hendrickson and Bradford Bruns, I'm Alex Ferrario. Mike, hockey right around the corner, man. I know you remember these when you were a part of prospects camps, but the Blues prospects wrapped up their skate a little bit ago and are headed up to Minnesota for a prospect tournament. How are you?
Well, I'm good. I did 5 prospects camps, so you're right. You couldn't speak to anybody who knows more about it. It's actually kind of embarrassing. And you know what? I take it back, 6. I did 6.
6 prospects? Were they all with the same team?
I did 4 with the Nashville Predators, and then I did... Nope. It was 5. I had 3 with the Nashville Predators, 1 with the St. Louis Blues, and 1 with the New Jersey Devils, even though I spent the previous year, half the season in the NHL. So,
oh my gosh.
I was like 25 years old with 18-year-old kids, and I don't know if Lou even knew my name, Lamorello. I guess obviously not. I mean, I was in the league the year before, but that's a whole nother story. So it's been a crazy morning at Macadoodles, man. My brain's a little fried. I had an unbelievable skate this morning at Kirkwood. You know what? Some days you're just hot on the ice, and for an old goalie like me to fill the net every once in a while, I'm really riding a high, guys.
There we go. I love that one. We'll talk about the craziness out in Macadoodles in just a bit. But, Mike, you actually saying that you were in multiple camps at 25 years old leads me to my first question. We were talking with Tim Taylor yesterday on the show, and he was saying, like, look, these prospect camps have changed because guys who have played in the American Hockey League for 3 years are playing in this prospect tournament. So for somebody who played in this, who was already a guy who played a couple of games in the NHL, it's not the end-all, be-all in terms of evaluating your younger players, but this is pretty stiff competition. You're going up against your peers in terms of talent level for some of these guys who are playing in their first rookie camp.
Oh, Alex, dude, it matters so much. I mean, honestly, if you look at my career and the moments that really elevated it to where I got, it was the rookie camp that I did with the St. Louis Blues in 2007. And I'm sure people don't remember me being in that camp because I never stepped foot on the ice with anybody that was, well, I think I had one day that I was out there with Kachuk and Korea.
There we go.
But
name drop.
What happened, though, was they basically needed a warm body to go to Traverse City for the Prospects Tournament to pair with Merrick Schwartz, their first-round draft pick. And he'd been in the American League the year before. I played in the ECHL. It wasn't the Blues property, but, they needed another goaltender for the tournament. Well, I did the rookie camp in town, and then we went up to Traverse City, and I led every single category and had a 40-shot shutout against the Dallas Stars. And Andre Pavlik was the other goalie. Anton Hudobin was the other goalie that were in that tournament. Like some pretty big name guys came through this thing. And that was a catalyst for my career, because what happened was I came back to St. Louis and they said, you know what, you've played so well, we can't send you home. Come to Maine camp. So then I got to do Maine training camp with the St. Louis Blues, then went to Peoria, and ultimately didn't work out with the Blues that year. They had 6 goalies under contract already. But what happened was that since I had played so well at that Traverse City tournament, and I had already had 2 good years in the ECHL, really good years, all-star years, second in MVP voting. I feel like I'm rattling off my only accomplishments here, but I have to. I got to set the table. You got to understand what led to this happening. Despite what I had done in the ECHL, I was not going to end up in the American League. I wasn't, until this tournament that the Blues took me to, because I ended up getting an American League one-way contract with the Portland Pirates, because Anaheim, their parent team, had seen me play at Traverse City. And when they needed a goalie, I was the guy that they thought could do that. And it literally does not happen if the Blues don't just say, hey, Mike, come along with us and see what happens. So it's funny, because my career I had the 1 year in Peoria later, about 5 years later, that I spent there. It was a great season. But you don't really tie my career in with the Blues. But the Blues were integral into everything that happened in my life in every way, even though I only played 1 year in the organization.
And Mike, you mentioned training camp, and training camp starts next week. And I wanted to ask you, and I don't know if it was in line with when you went to your first prospect camp or not, but you think of a player like Justin Carbonneau, 18 years old. He has to make a decision in the offseason of, do I go to juniors or do I go to college? Now he's here at prospect camp. He's playing in prospect camp. Next week he's going to be playing in training camp, trying to make the team out. If not, he's going back to his junior team. What a whirlwind of a week and then an offseason for an 18-year-old. So take me back. What was it like when you get first opportunity to be at an NHL training camp when you're at such a young age as a goalkeeper?
It's crazy. So I was 19 years old. The way the rules were back then, if you were in college, you couldn't be drafted until you were 19. Changed a couple years later. I was drafted in 2002 by the Nashville Predators, 172nd overall in the 6th round. And I go to camp, and it's just sensory overload. Because a year before, I was playing in Springfield, Illinois, in front of 800 people, 900 people, junior hockey. Go to college 1 year, and next thing you know, you're on the ice with Scott Hartnell, and you're on the ice with Shea Weber and Scotty Upshaw and Dan Hamhuis and Alexander Radulov, which, by the way, if you've ever seen a Russian try to throw a football, that's a sight unseen, especially when he's got hot out of rural Russia with like the unibrow and the bowl cut and all Tommy Hilfiger gear and Levi's. Like, that was Alexander Radulov at 18. But you're trying to soak it in. And I think the benefit to these rookie camps is you're not in the deep end with the big dogs right off the bat. You're with your peers. You're with other 18-year-olds, 19-year-olds. In my case, a 25-year-old. Still don't know why. But that lets you have a little bit of success, but also gives you the taste of how serious it is. You walk in and you get all the swag. You get the gear. You're wearing the colors of your team. You got pictures that your friends are seeing on social media nowadays, at least. It makes you feel like you're part of the club, and it sets you up for success to have one of these rookie tournaments or rookie camps in advance of going into main camp, when you're out there with objectively Hall of Famers on every team.
And Mike, did you feel comfortable when you're that young of age in your first training camp to go up to some of these guys and kind of ask some questions of, I saw you doing this, why were you doing that? Or was it, you just kind of do your thing and you don't really go up to the veteran?
I felt good with the rookie camps, again, because it was kind of peers, But when Nashville didn't end up signing me, my first real training camp was with the Blues in 2007, even though I'd been drafted in 2002. So my first real training camp was that 2007 camp. And I got to tell you, I didn't say a word to Manny Legacy unless I was spoken to. And when Keith Kachuk's coming down to shoot on you, and Paul Correa, and just people you grew up watching, man, you don't say a word. You just get out there. And then you look over and David Perron's got the white skates and making Andy Murray angry. And
God,
fun training.
You just brought back so many memories of the Blues in the Come Grow With Us era of 07-08 with Andy Murray and David Perron and the white skates and laces that people were talking so much about. Mike, in terms of younger players, a lot of Blues fans are talking about Justin Carbonneau, who signs his entry-level contract, and everyone wondering if he could make this team out of camp. There's not a lot of roster spots, but they do have that trial period. Do you think a Carbonneau could do enough to earn at least a 9-game trial with the Blues this season? Or is it just, look, he's going to go out there, he's going to perform, and he goes back to juniors?
Well, this guy put up 46 goals in the Quebec League last year in 62 games. And size-wise, he's 6'1", he's rangy. If he fills the net in rookie camp, and then if he keeps going on and he fills the net during practice and scrimmages, and if he has a great training camp, the best case scenario I do believe for Carbonneau would be, like you said, you might get a couple games here. The roster's really full for the Blues right now, so I think it'd probably be a right case, right time. If there's a couple injuries early off the bat, which inevitably happens to teams, then I absolutely think someone like Carbonneau, just from the little bit of tape that I've seen on him and from his stat line the last couple of years, when you combine those, I think there's a chance at it. He's going to go back to junior in my eyes almost for sure, but he does have the skill set. He's got the mindset. He's got the pedigree that he might get a longer run if than we think. And again, especially if there's injuries.
All right, Mike, tell us, you said it was crazy at Macadoodles recently. What's going on?
Well, I just sent out a text to all our customers because we got a huge drop of Penelope today. I mean, we've got Penelope Omega, we got Penelope Single Barrel, we got Penelope Marshmallow Toast, American Light Whiskey. Dude, we've got like every Penelope release that you can think of aside from Havana and Rio. We did not get those, sorry folks, but we got a bunch of that in today. We got a hot ticket from Old Dominic 8-year. I got the Aston Martin F1 Series 16-year Scotch, Lance Stroll, Fernando Alonso. Like, there's some really cool stuff in the building. We're just rolling, man. Like, it's a good feeling when you get these cool things in that people want, because they come in, they have fun. They're headed to the Mizzou game. We just got a bunch of Mizzou canned cocktails in with the logo on it, man. You know they're going to be rolling down the road here for tomorrow's game. So it just gets better and better here, man. THC is the same way. We got a whole bunch of drinks coming out this week as well, from everything from 3 milligram dosage on up to 60 milligrams. And every single one of those, for the most part, is underneath like $30 for a 4-pack. So we got everything going here at the corner of Bryan and Fizey Road, just north of the Page Extension.
Get on out there and say hi to Mike McKenna. Better known on our station is Macadoodle Mike. Always appreciate the time, buddy. Have a great weekend, and we are talking about actual hockey next Friday with the first preseason game next Saturday.
I love it, and I sure hope BK's recovering from that trouncing he took from the Riz show recently. So good luck to BK.
Yeah, good luck indeed, because he doesn't make those picks very well most times. Mike McKenna, always with us on Fridays here on BK and Ferrario. One thing I just wanted to mention, kind of after that answer, T-Bone, I do think this is an important prospect tournament for both Dvorsky and Carbonneau. I don't think they're going to make this roster off of these two games. I know they're not going to make this roster off of these two games, but they're not going up against guys that are just going to be playing in the East Coast Hockey League this upcoming season. They're going up against what is arguably one of the most highly touted defensive prospects on the Minnesota Wild team in Zeev Buium. And then offensively, they got a top centerman, Daniil Yurov, who's playing in that tournament. That's on Minnesota's side. And then on Chicago, they're going off of a guy who could win Rookie of the Year, according to some outlets on Chicago's, on top of 2 former first-round draft picks on the defensive side and a top winger that's going to be playing. So they're going up against stiff enough competition that if you're the best of your peers here, it gives you an upper hand once you go into next week's camp. Doesn't mean they make the roster, but if you dominate and are the best player in this tournament, now more eyes are focused on you going into training camp, whereas if you underperform, now you're trying to live back up to expectations.
Yeah, typically when you get these kind of prospect tournaments that happen, you always look at your top guys and say, hey, Dvorsky, hey, Carbonell, you guys should be some of the best ones on the ice. Juracek, kind of the same way from the defensive side of things, because you are playing with your peers. You should stand out of the group of Blues that we send, and then that kind of helps with some momentum going into training camp. But if you have a bad prospect camp and they look at this and go, boy, Dvorsky, man, not sure about that defense again. That's the thing we've been talking about, right?
Yeah.
The defense, he's maybe not there two ways right now as a forward. Odds are you're not going to just suddenly flip the switch and boom, it's going to click for you once you get and start seeing the big boys when the Blues start rolling out their top guys once training camp gets going next week. So, yeah, it's a big weekend for them just to showcase, hey, yeah, you are standing out in a group of your peers. Okay, now let's see if you're able to continue that into training camp once you start to go up against like veterans like Braden Chen, Colton Parayko, and so on.
They play the Minnesota Wild tonight at 7 o'clock in Minnesota, tomorrow night at 6 o'clock against Chicago. And you can watch both of those games over on the Blues website, stlouisblues.com, and on the Blues app. So you'll be able to see them in action if you want to watch any of it tonight and tomorrow. And I'm sure we'll be having some reaction to it on Monday. Tanner Hendrickson, Bradford Bruns, I'm Alex Ferrario. We'll talk with Brad Thompson in about 30 minutes or so. We'll get back into the SEC coming up in 15. But coming up next, boys, I had that moment where you realize you're getting old yesterday. And I'll explain next on 101 ESPN.
Sunday, it's an NFL triple header. Game 1, Steelers and Seahawks. Game 2, Colts and Broncos. Game 3, Vikings and Falcons. Coverage begins Sunday morning at 11. Your destination for the NFL in St. Louis is 101 ESPN. Back to more of it. It's BK and Ferrario on 101 ESPN. Let's open it up. The Junk Drawer with BK and Ferrario.
So I had that moment yesterday as we dive into the junk drawer where everybody at some point hits where it's like, okay, I'm getting old and now I need to do something to like right the ship. So last night, typically at dinner time is when I'm cooking. My daughters, because my wife's at work, they lose their ish. Like my youngest, Olivia, if food is not in front of her by 6 o'clock, she starts screaming at the top of her lungs. So I have to find things that like keep them distracted until I get dinner on the table in front of them. And the one thing that I have found is if I turn on music on her Bluetooth speaker and like sing and dance, it distracts them. The oldest start having dance parties, the youngest laughs. So it's a way to keep them distracted.
Smart.
Typically what I do is I'll turn on music that I like also. So there's this punk rock Disney album that's out that I listen to all the time. Girls love it because it's Disney music. And I love it because I do a little headbanging with it. So I'm like, go up and down. So last night I got into it because I was trying to keep my daughter from screaming. I woke up this morning. I couldn't turn my head to the left or right. I looked at my wife and I go, my neck is killing me. She goes, what did you do? Did you sleep on it wrong? I said, no, it's got to be because I was headbanging with my daughter last night to try and keep her distracted. I've never felt more old than right now because I also pinched my back when I was doing it. So my back hurt. I couldn't turn my head. And I looked at my wife and I said, I either need to start exercising more or I'm just going to turn into a geriatric that can't move in about 5 years.
Yeah, I think you're just in trouble, buddy. I think it's
not good.
Yeah, we call this old age-itis.
Oh.
And
God,
there's no cure for it. There is nothing to help with it. It's just going to only get worse from here. Yeah. That's tough.
I mean, it wasn't even that intense of a headbang.
It's a tough realization, yeah.
It was just, I could get my hair going. I can't even do it now because my neck hurts. I have to do my whole body. Let's get the hair going. And I was like, woo, singing. And she was laughing up. And then I'm like, uh-oh, Daddy's in pain.
I think you should offer no apologies, sir, because not only did Simple Plan totally rock that out with its interpretation of Can You Feel the Love Tonight?
Bradford, he knows exactly what I'm talking about. Yellow Card.
Newfound Glory taking on The Little Mermaid? Are you kidding me?
Yellow Card's taking on Aladdin and A Whole New World. Man.
I'm glad you two are speaking the same language.
Yeah, but Bradford's a dad. He gets it. He knows this stuff. You got to find what you can get distracted with. A lot of people over on the YouTube chat are like, Alex, headbangs? What is going on? Yeah, I can headbang. I'm going to Blink 182 in a couple of weeks with Donny Fandango and a buddy of mine. My whole body's going to hurt after that one because I will headbang the ish out of that concert.
Because you know what? It's Blink 182. Tom is back, and that's Blink 182.
Nailed it once again. T-Bone, do you know anything that I'm talking about right now?
I've only heard, I can't even name a Blink 182 song.
Oh, my.
I'm sure, like, if I heard one, I would know, like, their best hits. Outside of that, no clue.
Yep.
Alex, I know we're
to go see Blink 182.
From the same musical era, but this is unacceptable.
Yeah, this is unacceptable. Well, we've learned this a lot from T-Bone.
You guys also both have old age-itis, so I ain't concerned.
Hey, it hurts right now. And I've also learned that I'm probably never going to headbang again with my daughter. So I'll just have to sing and jump up and down. But the headbanging,
are you at the point yet when you wake up, even without headbanging, where you wake up just randomly and you're like, wow, something hurts and I have no idea why?
So typically, no. It's not until I decide to do headbang or
Bradford,
pinch.
yes.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I haven't gotten there yet, which I need to go back to, I used to do yoga like BK has always talked about. I used to try it because it's, stretching things out. And I used to at least exercise consistently. I got away with it once you have 3 kids and a dog. And I'm like, oh, this is probably never going to happen again. Well, I need to get back to it at some point. Otherwise, I'm going to be in a wheelchair in about 5 years because my whole body's going to hurt. But sometimes you got to do whatever you can do to make your girls laugh and not scream their freaking heads off. Tanner Hendrickson, Bradford Bruns. I'm Old Man Ferrario. Coming up at 15, we'll talk it over with Brad Thompson. I guarantee BT's had one of these moments. He's an athlete and he's had one of these moments. But coming up next, this weekend isn't just fun with all of the football action, it's also a weekend where we could actually get some really interesting answers on the SEC. We'll explain that and how it ties into Mizzou next on 101 ESPN.
The Redbird Report, your front row seat to all things Cardinals. From the dugout to the diamond, BK and T-Bone go deep with the latest news, notes, and analysis. Watch the Redbird Report on YouTube or listen online at 101ESPN.com.
Tanner Hendrickson here to tell you about my friends at DraftKings Sportsbook, America's top-rated sportsbook app, which is coming soon here to the Show Me State. And starting November 17th, you can create your DraftKings Sportsbook account here in Missouri and get ready for launch day on December 1st. And when DraftKings Sportsbook goes live, just place a $5 bet to unlock $300 in bonus bets. DraftKings Sportsbook brings everything you're going to need to elevate your game day, including live in-game betting, lightning-fast payouts, and endless ways to get in on the action, all right from your phone. So when DraftKings Sportsbook goes live in Missouri, you'll be betting with that DraftKings Sportsbook app, trusted by millions. It's safe, secure, and has fast money withdrawals. So download the DraftKings Sportsbook app now and grab $300 in bonus bets with just a $5 bet when we go live December 1st in partnership with DraftKings Sportsbook. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. 21 plus, physically present in Missouri. Eligibility restrictions apply. Bonus bets expire 7 days after issuance. WXOS HD1 East St. Louis 101 ESPN is driven by Brown and Krugman Law Firm. This is exactly where you want to be listening to us. It's BK and Ferrario on 101 ESPN.
So, of course, we talked earlier in the show, Mizzou and Illinois both in action, specifically Mizzou, because we're a Mizzou show here on BK and Ferrario. Sorry, T-Bone. Illinois show's coming up from 2 to 6 with Kerry Davis. But Mizzou's taking on Louisiana, Louisiana Lafayette going in action.
There you go.
And then you got Illinois taking on Michigan. No, it was Western Michigan. I'm trying to remember these off the top of my head. Anyway, Mizzou's not playing anybody. They're 25th right now in the AP poll, but we've talked a lot about when their SEC schedule begins, there's a lot of 50-50 games. But if you look around the SEC this week, T-Bone and Bradford, you're about to find out what some of those 50-50 games actually might lean more towards Mizzou than what they were when you originally looked at the schedule. Because we all agree there's not a dominant team right now in the SEC. Georgia and LSU would probably be the two at the top, but Georgia really hasn't played anybody, and LSU, although they've played some opponents, they haven't looked the most dominant. But if you go through it, like LSU's taking on Florida. Probably an easy win for them, but it could cause some disruption because it's an SEC opponent. Georgia's taking on Tennessee. But then look at the schedule that Mizzou's opponents are playing this week. Alabama taking on Wisconsin, Oklahoma taking on Temple. You've got Ole Miss taking on Arkansas, Vanderbilt taking on South Carolina. If these games aren't heavily one-sided into the teams that look like they're the ones that Mizzou could struggle with, and really just in the SEC in general, man, this is just going to be as wide open as ever when you're looking at the SEC opponents, because if these games they struggle in, you're going to get the real opinion of what some of these schools are, which will lean more into the conversation piece of none of these teams are that great.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see how some of these squads look like, especially when you're looking at Mizzou's schedule, because like they play Alabama this year, right? And they go up against Wisconsin, and I don't think Wisconsin's very good. I know they're 2-0. They haven't really played anybody. They haven't been all that impressive. But Alabama got dominated by Florida State. So was that a teller of what Alabama's going to look like against Power 4 conference opponents? Or was it, hey, Florida State's actually that good, and can Alabama kind of right the ship so you'll get a good read on them this weekend? And then you take a look at, you've got a squad like the Texas A&M, who's on the road at Notre Dame. Look, Texas A&M, everybody kind of liked coming into the year, and they haven't been that impressive so far this season.
No.
And they've got a road test. On the road at Notre Dame is not easy. They gave up 24 and 22 points to UTSA and Utah State, respectively, and kept those teams in it for a decent chunk of it. So you can look at them and go, okay, get a good sense on what they're actually going to be this season. And then the one that I find the most fascinating of the bunch, and it's two teams that are on the schedule for Missouri, it's Vanderbilt and at South Carolina.
Mm-hmm.
You're going to learn a lot about South Carolina, right? They were one of the teams that was kind of like Illinois. That was a trendy pick of, hey, they could be a playoff team this year. It starts because of their quarterback. They got Sellers, who looked really good in his time with South Carolina. And yet you look at their number 11 ranking and go, are they really the 11th best team in the country? They weren't that great against South Carolina State last weekend. Virginia Tech, it wasn't. If it weren't for some punt returns, then they're probably not set up to really put up some offensive numbers. Sellers hasn't been that good for them.
It took a while in that first game, yeah.
Yeah, Sellers 337 passing. That's it. We've played South Carolina State, Virginia Tech, and Virginia Tech's coaches on the hot seat. 2 touchdown passes. Are we okay? You're going to learn a lot about South Carolina if they are a playoff team. Vandy, we know, is feisty. I don't know if you're going to learn much about Vandy, but if Vandy can go on the road and take down South Carolina, now you're looking at them in that next week matchup against Missouri going, okay, this should be a team Missouri should be favored against.
Yeah, or to some extent, can Vandy neutralize Lenora Sellers? And for me, guys, it goes back to a question, frankly, that I had prior to the start of this season. We don't have any questions whatsoever about the pure athleticism and the talent, the skill set of Lenora Sellers. However, when it comes to actually taking that next step insofar as going through your progressions, making the reads, getting from point A to point B, and then beyond, we saw trouble in that department versus Virginia Tech until the fourth quarter of that game. And when he is basically pushed up into the pocket, he is a different type of passer right now. That is to say, not as polished as he is going to be, maybe even later in the season. That one's interesting to me. But quite honestly, teams that are not appearing on Missouri's schedule, fortunately, later this season really have my eyes. And specifically, when you talk about Georgia, Alex, one of the teams you referenced, along with, of course, an A&M type, maybe being at the very top at the tail end. Visiting Tennessee. Now, admittedly, I was not exactly optimistic about the Vols entering this season. I figured not only would you be hurt quite a bit by swapping out Nico Iamaleava for Joey Aguilar, quarterback, you lost Dylan Sampson to the NFL, to the Cleveland Browns. And yet Josh Heupel, albeit through just 2 weeks, this train has been humming once again offensively. It looks exactly like the same type of attack that got off to a gangbuster start 1 season ago. And yes, the competition, the level hasn't been there yet. But if you were competitive in that environment at Neyland Stadium against a Georgia team that for the first 2 weeks of the season offensively has proceeded to sleepwalk through the proceedings, you really could open my eyes as far as maybe wedging your way back into the CFP conversation all over again. And then I also look at that matchup between Florida and between LSU, because on paper right now, I think it's interesting, Alex, that you only have the Tigers there favored by 7.5, despite being at the other Death Valley. And that's because this is a gotta-have-it game for Billy Napier. You go out and basically get embarrassed at home against, yes, South Florida is the only team to knock off 2 top 25 squads so far in 2025. But going back and forth, the seesaw effect last season, he was in this exact same predicament, and then his team reeled off 4 straight wins to conclude the regular season. I need to see if there is a response there. And then also, a la Lenore Sellers, I need to see the type of response from the quarterback, DJ Lagway. He wasn't good, about 200 yards of total offense last week, had the pick as well. You need to see him take that next step, which goes back to the whole conversation you guys have been having for the last couple of weeks. In a league right now that has definitely witnessed its fair share of down quarterback play, Missouri is among the squads actually to have a guy who appears to be more than capable right now. So, yeah, a lot of question marks this weekend.
I mean, I think you're going to look at an Alabama game that Mizzou will play a little differently depending on what they do against Wisconsin. I think you're going to look at both South Carolina and Vanderbilt differently depending on what they do when they play against each other, when the Tigers take them on. And then the one that also has kind of a dual meaning, one for Mizzou, but also one just for college football fans. Is this an elimination game for Notre Dame? Like, Notre Dame came into the season, I think, with a lot of expectations, mostly because of what they did last year and ranked 8th right now in college football. But you've already lost the first game or the second game of the season?
First game to Miami.
First game to Miami, that's right. And it was a tight game, but you still lost it. If you look at their schedule, there's not a whole lot of, they put their resume together to boost them up to being a playoff team potentially this year. You lose to A&M. That's the 2 ranked opponents. Maybe you get another ranked opponent later on into this one, but I doubt it. But Purdue, Arkansas, Boise State, who might be, but probably isn't for how their season's already started off, NC State, USC, Boston College, Navy, Pitt, Syracuse, Stanford. Well, if you're 0-2 in the 2 ranked opponents for Notre Dame, I don't know how you come back from that even if you win out.
Yeah, I mean, it quietly feels like an elimination game this weekend. And I mentioned it. Look, A&M's another team with some question marks that I've got questions about, so we'll see what they look like. But, yeah, Notre Dame, they've dropped in this. They're 0-2, and there's not another quality win on their schedule right now that you can look at. Maybe USC works their way into the top 25 because they've been pretty impressive early on. We'll see how they look. But, yeah, otherwise – man, if you have a 10-2 Notre Dame team, but they don't have a top 25 win, and they don't get a conference championship game, which a whole other thing on if those things matter
right.
or not. But they don't get that extra game to play,
yeah.
And so it's hard to look at, okay, what will the committee do if they have 2 losses, but there are 2 opportunities against ranked teams, and if we're being honest, I don't know if A&M's going to finish in the top 25 this year. It's possibly an elimination game for Notre Dame this weekend.
That's wild.
I will believe it when I see it, as it pertains to Notre Dame and the committee, the way in which, the myriad of ways in which the committee evaluates the body of work or lack thereof for Notre Dame. Because this system, as it stands right now, forget moving on to 14, 16 teams down the line. 12-team playoff seems to cater to Notre Dame being able to get in there each and every year. And I'm not necessarily worried about this weekend, frankly, that matchup having had additional time now with which to prepare for Marcus Freeman. We know that his coached squads, they obviously improve. They steadily improve throughout the course of the season. A&M going into that environment in South Bend. Hey, CJ Carr has been really good, albeit through that 1+ game. He really acquitted himself extremely well against Miami. But if you're Notre Dame, you have to get back to the bread and butter. And I'm not just talking about playing that physical brand of defensive football, but Jeremiah Love, St. Louis's own. It's inexplicable that he had 10 carries and 10 carries only for 33 yards against Miami. Never gave him a chance to basically get on track. You've got a true freshman quarterback. You know that the engine of your offense is an all-American type of threat. Give it to Love, let him cook, and basically pound A&M's defense into submission.
He's Bradford Bruns, Tanner Hendrickson. I'm Alex Ferrario. Coming up at 15, we will get into One's Gotta Go. You send us 3 scenarios. We'll tell you which one's got a go. But coming up next, we'll talk some Cardinals baseball as the Cards open up a series this weekend against the Brewers. Brad Thompson next here on 101 ESPN.
Be a part of the show. Text the Air Comfort Service Heating, Cooling, and Insulation text line at 314-399-9646 on 101 ESPN. picks for this week's Fastlane Pick'em Challenge at 101ESPN.com. Show off your football knowledge and see if you can top the Fastlane and the dudes from the Rizzuto Show on the point for this week's top score. The top scorer each week scores a Bud Light NFL cooler stocked with 101 ESPN and point swag. It's the Fastlane and the Riz Show throwing down all football season long in the Pick'em Challenge. Enter your picks for this week now at 101ESPN.com.
The Fastlane Pick'em Challenge is refreshed by Bud Light, official beer of the NFL. Easy to Sunday, easy to enjoy. Enjoy responsibly.
They are St. Louis. It's BK and Ferrario on 101 ESPN.
Always love talking Cardinals with our favorite Cardinals TV analyst. He is Brad Thompson, joining us now on the Callier and Thompson Hotline. BT, how are you, buddy?
Gentlemen, I am doing great. Life is good. It's a beautiful day here in Milwaukee. Just got finished with 18. No big deal.
Nice.
And may have, and I won't say who, but I may have taken money from another broadcaster today. It doesn't matter that I'm getting a lot of strokes because of my horrible handicap. It just matters that money from this unnamed broadcaster who is on TV and radio, and his initials are RH.
Nice.
His money is going into my pocket.
Good to know that you took away Chip Carey's money, right? That's what you were trying to get at?
Close enough.
Close enough. So did you hit under 100, BT? That's what's most important.
Dude. Yes, yeah,
there
94 for me, which I know that a lot of people are like, that sucks. Yeah, it does, but it's good for me.
I'm the same way. I judge it off of 100. I'm not a scratch golfer, but as long as I golf under 100, it wasn't a waste of my money.
Alex, I had an eagle putt on 18, okay? That, no big deal. Now, that eagle putt turned into a par, sure. But the fact that we had the opportunity to maybe do something special really felt good for a minute.
Between your anger when it comes to certain sports, probably like golf, and your talent level in golf, BT, you and I need to get together and play 18 at some point.
So I totally agree. I'm in, and I will say this though: my anger issues don't come out in golf.
Really?
Unless I just duff one that's just horrible, right? But I realized I'm not that good. So like that. If I start getting better, it's the same thing I say to my son sometimes when maybe something at baseball doesn't go right. Because maybe sometimes didn't put in as much work as maybe he should. And I say, hey, you don't deserve to be upset. You don't deserve to be mad at that at-bat or that inning or something because you didn't put in the work. That's how I feel about myself in golf. I don't deserve to get mad.
Well, phenomenal parenting, but I'm also going to take that into – that was like parenting to Ferrario from BT because I'm going to have to implement that into my golf game. Well, BT, things also haven't gone well for the Cardinals as of late. It's the only transition I can come up with. The day off, swept by the Seattle Mariners, taking on this Milwaukee Brewers. You know, the one bright spot I would say from that last game, and we talked a little bit about this yesterday, BT, Michael McGreevy, although it's been up and down in the month of August, you do see a guy who's going out there and giving you 6 innings no matter what, whether it's a quality start or he's giving up a little bit more runs. He's giving you innings, which is something I imagine this Cardinals team is going to be desperate for next year.
Yeah, need innings big time for a cost control guy. This isn't just innings for a guy that's making $18 million. It's innings for a guy that's making the minimum. Like that's kind of what you would look for, and quality innings at that. I believe that Michael McGreevy is going to continue to get better and better. This guy's got an idea. He knows how to pitch. I love watching him emotionally out there. We were just talking about blackout rage. I had anger issues when I pitched, and I one of the biggest regrets that I have in the game of baseball is not enjoying it more, and especially in the moment, not enjoying it more. I watch Michael McGreevy out on the mound, and he takes moments to enjoy it. Like a crazy play happens, he's smiling. Even something bad happens, like a long home run, and he'll kind of laugh to himself a little bit and then lock right back in. So I think just mentally, this young man has got such a good idea of what he's doing, and to me, that bodes pretty well for the future for Michael McGreevy.
And BT, speaking of plus on the pitching side, I mean, the bullpen's been fantastic since they had their sell-off at the end of July for the trade deadline. And one guy that I really want to hone in on is Matt Swanson, who they acquired in the Paul DeJong trade a couple of years ago. He has a 1.5 B WAR, baseball reference WAR, the first Cardinals full-time reliever 26 or younger to accomplish that feat as of right now since 2016 when Kevin Sechrist did it. Have the Cardinals found a guy that could potentially be like their next maybe Giovanni Gallegos that they have in this bullpen?
Yeah, look, there's no reason to believe they haven't. I mean, this is a young man who throws in the upper 90s, who's got that good breaking ball, that sweeper that you're talking about, and he's putting together a really special season, and he's gotten the opportunity due to the fact that they traded off three pivotal pieces in the back end of the bullpen, right? So they picked him up because they like the skill set, they like the arm, but there's no reason to believe that he can't be a high-leverage reliever for you. Now, there's going to be league adjustments. They're going to adjust to some of the things that he's doing. What adjustments does he end up making back? Does he throw another wrinkle in? Does he shape his breaking ball differently? Like, we're going to find out kind of what that looks like. But the fact that he is closed in the minor leagues, I think that bodes well for him, that he's not afraid late innings. He certainly hasn't been afraid with the third deck on the stadiums in the big leagues. And I really believe that they have something there in Matt Swanson. We also know the volatility in bullpens, right? We know that there can be up and down seasons. But there's nothing when you look at the outlier numbers for him and you're looking at just digging into the metrics, there's nothing that says he's getting lucky, right? You can see the stuff. There are some guys when you look at it, you're like, whoa, geez, like how is this guy not getting hit? All these numbers indicate that this is not going to be what he is going forward. You don't have that with Matt Swanson. So we'll see what he ends up looking like, but I agree. The bullpen has been a plus, and he certainly has been a plus.
We're talking with Brad Thompson, Cardinals TV analyst here on BK and Ferrario. He's with us on the Callier and Thompson hotline. BT, on the position player side, it hasn't been announced yet, but the expectation is Brendan Donovan getting brought back with the team after a few rehab games that he's been playing, trying to get that groin back to where it was before his injury. Nolan Arenado potentially joining the team very soon. How do you think Ali Marmol is going to handle just the ability to play all of these guys? Because Gorman was hot there for a while. He's fallen off a little bit. And obviously, with 15-plus games to play in the regular season, you're still wanting some more answers on certain players.
Yeah, look, you want answers on players, but you also want, if Arenado's healthy, Arenado's going to play, right? If Donny's healthy, your all-star this year, Donny's going to play. That's just kind of how it works, right? So this is a good problem for Ali to have. And I was talking about this with the guys on the fast lane the other day. Yeah, there are some questions that you still have about certain players. You're not going to figure them out in the last 3 weeks. Like, that's not going to happen. So if you don't have the answer by now, there's a good chance that answer wasn't going to be found, and you still got to play your best squad. Like, when you're technically out of it, I guess maybe you could figure out a way to play all the young guys, but you want to see Arenado healthy, and you want to see him play for him, and then maybe for value of moving him. And Donny is arguably your best player, right? So that's a good thing getting those guys back.
BT, I did want to ask you about Ali Marmol, because right before the series against Seattle, you can't say that it didn't happen. They get swept, but they were at 500, 72-72 prior to being swept in Seattle. Their run differential is in the negative by almost 50 runs. The Pythag expected win-loss is 69-78. And yet Ali Marmol has got this squad sitting right around 500. What does that say about Ali, that he's been able to take this roster and maximize it to get it to close to 500, and they have a shot to finish at or above 500 by the end of the year?
Look, I think it's a really good point. It's one that any time you come to the defense of a manager whose team is not in the playoffs, people get upset with you. I think that Ali has done a fantastic job with this roster. And to your point, like, just look at the pieces that he's had for the whole season. This isn't an indictment on the guys, but like, he hasn't had one best player. There hasn't been, you had a rotation that you kind of pieced together. You traded off three pivotal pieces in your bullpen, as we talked about before, and yet they still are figuring out ways with a young roster that we don't know what all these guys are to win games. And the details have mattered. And for me, a lot of that is on Ollie. I think that the bullpen management has been great. He's done a really good job of keeping his guys healthy, communicating, and it goes further than that, but it is a reflection on Ollie. It's the way that Ollie has utilized his staff. I think the staff has done a really nice job of getting guys ready day in and day out, game planning, the work beforehand. I'm a huge fan of John Jay on this staff and holding guys accountable. And like there might be times where guys are working maybe more than they are used to working and maybe like to work, but they're getting the job done. You've seen it work, especially from an outfield defensive standpoint. So I really do think from an overall coaching staff, these guys have done an incredible job in a year where, as you mentioned very well, Tanner, and laid it out perfectly, expectations and the reality of the situation is the record is probably better than it should be.
BT, just from a player and a personal perspective, how tough is this time of the year when you're in that clubhouse, when the playoffs might still be in sight, but you kind of know where you're at? The team was sold off a couple of months ago. You're struggling just to get to the finish line. How tough is that on individual guys?
I don't think it's tough at all for any of these guys. Like, to me, this is more of an exciting time than anything and an important time because outside of a handful of guys, nobody has anything set in stone with this club. Like, there are a couple of guys with guaranteed contracts that aren't going anywhere if they don't want to. And, you know, Donny, if Donny is a member of the club next year, who knows what direction they go with him, but like he's a big league starter for sure. Everybody else has question marks. So like there's no like pouting that you might not be in the playoffs if you ever get mathematically eliminated. You're fighting for at bats. You're fighting for innings. You're fighting for opportunity and to turn ahead and to maybe even change somebody's mind, even though we said it's very hard to do with 3 weeks down the line if to kind of know exactly what a player is. But I don't think this is a tough time at all for these guys because the group is young. Now, if you had a veteran group who was supposed to win, you know what was tough down the stretch? 2023. That was tough down the stretch because that team was not supposed to look like that. They were not supposed to struggle the way that they did, and that flat out sucked. And the vibe around it was bad just because people expected to win, and you were so far out of it. But right now, the vibe is different, and the vibe is different because you got a lot of young guys that are really needing these at-bats and needing this opportunity down the stretch.
Well, regardless where you're at in the standings, it's always good when you get those NL Central games. The Cardinals taking on the Milwaukee Brewers this weekend. BT out in Milwaukee for that series that begins tonight. Always a pleasure to catch up, my man. Enjoy the weekend, and congrats again on that money in 18 holes win.
Yep. Yeah, guys, great talking to you. And just for clarity standpoint, I took Rick Horton's money. It was Rick Horton, who is sitting right next to me in an Uber currently. He's counting his cash. Might have to go to the ATM if they have $5 bills there.
Everybody.
No problem, Ricky.
Ricky, you'll get revenge, buddy. You'll get revenge. But let BT bask in it.
So much of my money already. It's fine.
Have a good weekend,
All
fellas.
right, boys.
There
have
you
a
go.
good weekend. See ya.
Brad Thompson with us on BK and Ferrario, taking Ricky Horton's money. Let me tell you, there's nothing better than feeling. There's no better feeling when you're golfing than taking somebody's money after 18 holes when you're not supposed to. Ricky Horton has to be stewing in frustration right now, though.
Yeah, you can kind of hear it from his guest appearance there.
When you heard BT say that I had an eagle putting and it turned out to be a par, been there before, my man. Been there before. Tanner Hendrickson, Bradford Bruns. I'm Alex Ferrario. Coming up at 15, we'll rewind BK and Ferrario and put a bow on this before this weekend set of games. But coming up next, one's got to go. You send us 3 scenarios to our Air Comfort Service text line, 314-399-9646, or over on our YouTube chat at 101 ESPN STL. One's got to go next on 101 ESPN.
Get social with 101 ESPN. Follow us on Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, X, Threads, Blue Sky, and YouTube at 101 ESPN.
101 ESPN Sports Center.
Cards bound for Badger State. Good afternoon. I'm Bradford Bruns. Your Sports Center update is driven by Johnny Londoff Chevrolet and Johnny Londoff Autoplex. Following a poor showing in the Pacific Northwest, St. Louis visits MLB best Milwaukee this evening. Andre Palante will oppose fellow righty Quinn Priester. STL has lost 4 of its past 6 outings. Last night, NFL-wise, Green Bay defeating Washington 27-18 at Lambeau Field. Packers quarterback Jordan Love racking up 292 yards passing, while Jaden Daniels took 4 sacks. Sunday brings a triple header on 101 ESPN, starting with Pittsburgh-Seattle. Your Sports Center update was driven by Johnny Londoff Chevrolet plus Johnny Londoff Autoplex. See them at londoff.com. Chevy, together we drive. Are you kidding me?
Giving you the picture, the real big St. Louis sports picture. It's BK and Ferrario on 101 ESPN. This is BK and Ferrario. Time now for One's Gotta Go. We offer up the talking points, and you get to pick which one's gotta go on 101 ESPN.
Count that big pen.
You send us those scenarios to 314-399-9646, our Air Comfort Service text line, or you could put them over in our graveyard chat on YouTube at 101 ESPN STL. We, along with Bradford Bruns, Tanner Hendrickson, I'm Alex Ferrario, will tell you which one has to go. And by the way, at the end of this segment, you'll get your chance to win a second pair of Blues and Brews tickets. So stick around towards the end of this segment for your question to win that pair of tickets. Let's start with this one, fellas, from the 314. One's got to go Monday Night Football, Sunday Night Football, or Thursday Night Football.
Ooh.
Curious your guys' answer on this one.
I would go Thursday Night Football, I think, because you don't get the guys as healthy for the game because they get, 3 days of rest. So as the season goes along, it's they're not getting that recovery. Sometimes you can kind of see. I think it probably hurts the product. And if we're just being honest, I think it's the worst of the 3 broadcast crews that are doing the game. And I used to love Al Michaels, and he doesn't have it anymore.
TBH, right? TBH. Hey, I am with you on that front. It has to be the Thursday night game, even though I do think if you're to make a case for it, the coaching adjustments that have to be made in that short order, that short period of time, I do think those are of paramount importance. So I think you get the best from that particular angle. But I've grown to appreciate, honestly, the Sunday night broadcast and just that aspect, the big picture idea of that. Sunday night 1, Monday night 2, and then a distant third is Thursday.
I'd actually get rid of Monday Night Football.
Oh.
And here's my line of thinking. By Thursday, I just want football back. I've had 3 days of nothing, especially like right now. Last night, it was just a really nice feeling of being able to watch football because you had 3 days of just a whole lot of nothing. Sunday Night Football, to me, is always the best game of the week. Like, you always get the best there. Monday night, there's a little football fatigue that sets in. I've been watching it all of Thursday. I watch it all of Saturday. I watch it all of Sunday. I like to enjoy myself a little bit more on Monday.
Yeah, see, there's no such thing as football fatigue.
Probably not, but out of the 3 of them, that's the one that it's like, I could do without. Thursday and Sunday night, I need those.
I will say, it did, for a while there, I don't think it's this case anymore, but for a while there, it was Monday. It was like, man, these are some bad football games. Now it's kind of Thursday gets kind of buried with some bad ones. Like this a week from, or this coming Thursday that's coming up, you'll have Miami Buffalo.
T-Bone, you might not know this one. One's got to go Mustache Edition. Burt Reynolds. You know who Burt Reynolds is?
No.
Ron Burgundy?
I do know him.
Tom Selleck.
Tom Selleck, I don't know.
Google both of them. We'll get your answer last. Mustache Edition. Who had the best one?
Must be Burt Reynolds or something. With shout out to Adam Sandler there. No,
I do know Tom Selleck.
It has to be Reynolds for me because that is even, yes, Tanner, admittedly, I'm old just like, Alex at times it would appear, but well before the era, whereas you've got Tom Selleck, that staple of the 80s into the 90s, Friends as well, and who was number 2, of course, Burgundy? He's an all-timer. No, Burt, sorry, Smokey and the Bandit, get out of here.
Yeah, I'm with BT. I'm with Bradford on this one. Bert's got to go. I think Tom Selleck is the one that you have to keep because I don't know if you guys have seen Tom Selleck without a mustache. Looks like a completely different person. Ron Burgundy's the GOAT when it comes to mustaches, so I think Tom Selleck's Burt Reynolds has got to go.
Yeah, sure. I'll agree with Burt Reynolds.
That was like season 6 of Friends, right? When
when you saw
it back up. And
it was awful. I saw it. I'm like, who is this guy?
Monica says not so much.
One's got to go. Carrot sending this one in. One's got to go car things. Power steering, air conditioning, or radio/Bluetooth.
This one's easy for me. And it is radio/Bluetooth.
You can't say radio/Bluetooth, man.
I can when I need the other two, right? Power steering, like that makes it so much easier to turn the car.
You don't need air conditioning.
Oh, yeah.
Roll your windows down, big boy.
You say that before your air conditioning goes. You drive home without your air conditioning day, you tell me how it goes.
I done that. I was going to say, I did that for about 4 years with my first vehicle. You turned the air conditioning on, and it sounded like this. I'm like, my car's going to blow up.
When I had my last car and its air conditioning would break, that was the hottest stretch. It just even driving 10 minutes from work to home was brutal. I can, don't get me wrong. I love listening to podcasts, love listening to music, love listening to our station while I'm driving home. I can have my thoughts with me when I'm driving home. I need the other two.
You need that. Have you ever driven with somebody who needs silence in the car when they drive?
No.
I did a drive when I was doing pest control. I did like a ride day with one of the technicians while I was learning, and I got in the car and he was like, "Don't touch the radio, man." I go, "What?" He goes, "I don't listen to radio when I work." So it was 8 hours of just sitting in silence because I didn't talk. Like this
sounds awful.
He was just 8 hours of silence, and I'm like, "This is the worst thing in the world."
Yeah, that's brutal.
I don't know how people do it. Sometimes I need it with my girls. Like sometimes they'll be like, "Daddy, will you turn on music?" And I'm like, "Nope, we're gonna just sit with nothing on right now." Because sometimes you just need it. I can't go an entire 8 hours of just nothing while you're driving around. But I think I'd get rid of the air conditioning in this one. I think I'd get rid of it. I could do the windows. I don't think I can handle silence.
You drive home today without you tell me which one's easier. You drive home today without your air on.
I'll do it today.
You drive to work on Monday without...
you know what? It comes down with you have to actually be very good with your style of wardrobe. Because, like, if you wear pants on a day that you think it's going to be cooler and it gets hot, well, now you're screwed because you got to drive home in it. But
that's right.
I'm in shorts and a shirt, man. I'll drive home in this today.
Yeah,
sounds like a punishment, though, next year for somebody. They got to go an entire week with no air conditioning on their car. A couple more of these. One's got to go from the 636 Fall Treats Edition. Pumpkin spice anything, walnuts and cookies, brown liqueur, Oktoberfest beer. What is brown liqueur? I'm not fancy enough to drink that.
L-I-Q-U.
T-Bone's Googling it. I mean, as it stands, unless brown liqueur is something that I just don't know what it is, I think I'd have to go Oktoberfest beer. I'm not a big Oktoberfest beer kind of guy.
Really?
I like Oktoberfest. I just don't like Oktoberfest beer.
I like Oktoberfest beer. Brown liqueur is like a spirit. Yeah, the amber color, aging in wood barrels. Oh, that sounds kind of good. Kind of like a whiskey. So that'll stay.
I'm going to keep that one. I'll keep that one over Oktoberfest beers. Got to have walnuts and cookies.
Oh, see, that's one that would go for me.
I need crunch in my cookies.
Oh, really? Interesting.
I'm a weirdo. I like soft cookies, but I need crunch. That's fair.
See, I could do without the crunch.
Is that weird?
I like a good crunch. No. I don't know if it's weird, but I could do without.
Do walnuts or pecans, one of the two.
Yeah, those are solid. But it's one that's got to go because I had a pumpkin spice cold brew yesterday. Oh, yes, please.
It's that time, baby. Katie made coffee the other day, and she goes, "You want pumpkin spice in it?" And I'm like, "I've never thought of that before."
I need to order
put some in it. Oh, it was good.
Yeah, that's got to stay. I love a good October. Like, I might pick up some Oktoberfest. I might swing by Macadoodle Mike's today and get some Oktoberfest beer. And brown liqueur, that sounds good.
I've told BK before, hey, I'm a farmhouse, sunset white type of guy as we roll through the valleys there. So the Oktoberfest beer doesn't really do it for me. The walnuts, again, not a huge fan, but if you're telling me, cookies over the top, absolutely, thank you very much. And yeah, that pumpkin spice, everything.
One's got to go American food, Italian food, or Mexican food.
Ooh.
I think I would I'm not getting rid of Italian food. That's pretty obvious. It's like all I make in my house is
get
like
rid of Olive Garden.
And I don't think I'd get rid of Mexican food. I think I'd get rid of American food.
Oh, really? You're getting rid of cheeseburgers?
Yeah, but like I'd have to get rid of like tacos and like enchiladas and bowls, and like I make a lot of those now. Like they're like meal prepping wise, I make so many taco bowls to get me through a week, and I can mix and match with spices. If I got to get rid of burgers and like French fries. I think I could handle that if I have my Italian food and my Mexican food.
Wings are considered American food, right? Like,
yeah, that would be
don't
tough.
You love wings?
I do love wings.
See,
it would be tough. This one's tough.
I think I would get rid of Italian food. I like the Mexican food, like the tacos that you're talking about. A good enchilada, quesadilla, like that stuff sounds great. I can't get rid of burgers and wings, and I
don't even like burgers anymore
because it's mostly pasta stuff. And like, don't get me wrong, I like it, but I could do without it. So I'd get rid of the Italian food.
See, my conundrum here is that I have already had a lifetime's worth of burgers, chicken nuggets, etc. But I'm dependable that way, right? I mean, I have to go to that well. Love the Mexican too. Alex, I'm going to push a little bit here, semantics only, and say some Italian dishes will go in the here and now.
You guys are trash. You guys are trash. Someone said no pizza if you get rid of Italian. So you're getting rid of pizza.
I can do. I got my wings still, right? I still got my chicken
you're
wings.
Insane. The go-to is
chicken.
the pizza. Pizza could get me through anything, and then I'll figure it out the rest.
I might have pizza tonight.
From the last one we'll do, from the 636, one's got to go film franchises that need to end edition.
Okay.
This one's very negative. Star Wars, Batman, Marvel, Fast and Furious.
Oh, this one's easy for me. I would get rid of Fast and Furious. I've never been into it.
I actually like them for some reason.
Really?
It sucked when Paul Walker died because that was really kind of what made him entertaining.
I would get rid of Fast and Furious because like Marvel, those been disappointing lately. I'm still going to give them.
Marvel.
I'm still going to give them a shot. Right? They'll figure it out. I think Batman. It's hard to. There haven't been a bunch of bad Batman movies lately.
I thought all the Robert Pattinson one, Ben Affleck ones were awful.
Ben Affleck was bad. I thought the Pattinson one was great. Star Wars, I enjoy Star Wars, so I would say Fast and Furious. Easy one for me.
Fast and Furious as well, because like you, Alex, I admit you have some guilty pleasures there, right? When you're talking about, I'm not even kidding, when you got to movies 5, 6, and 7, that was the pinnacle of the series. But you start launching them into space. Ludacris is operating a car in space.
That's
essentially.
Fine.
No, we're getting away from that. I have high hopes for Marvel to turn it around. Avengers. Doomsday style, yes. Doomsday style. Star Wars, you've got Ryan Gosling in the next flick. That actually heightens my expectations there. So, hey, yeah.
Someone brought up a really good point on American food, and now I'm questioning everything. They said you're getting rid of all of barbecue.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I think I have to amend this and get rid of Mexican food.
I thought you were going to say because it gets rid of hot dogs.
No, God, no. I'm okay getting rid of those and burgers, but I don't think I could get rid of my barbecue.
What's your answer on this one?
I think I'd get rid of Mexican food then.
No, sorry. I meant the film franchise.
On this one? Oh, the film franchise is the Batman.
Really?
It needs to end. Because all we're doing is we're just recycling through different actors to be Batman.
Yeah, but I'm excited for the next. I can't believe you didn't like the Pattinson one.
Oh, no, I hated the Pattinson one. I hated the Ben Affleck. The moment Christian Bale was gone, I'm like, okay, this one's done for me. It's the same as 007. I don't care who they're going to pick for 007. The moment
Daniel Craig.
I kept thinking Craig Morgan for some reason. The moment Daniel Craig left, I'm like, I'm done with this.
Interesting.
Yeah. So, and I mean, the storylines just aren't there anymore.
But now James Gunn is relaunching with his new version of DC. So you're going to have parallel Batmans. You're going to have Robert Pattinson, and then
I don't really like James Gunn.
Yeah.
I'm not a big James Gunn guy on the film, so it's kind of like to me that one needs to die. Although I also have never been a Star Wars fan, so other one that could die for me in this one. Tanner Hendrickson, Bradford Bruns. I'm Alex Ferrario. A lot of people hate us now on the text line for some of the answers that we just gave. We'll come back and rewind it and head into the weekend next year on 101 ESPN.
Tomorrow, it's a college football doubleheader. Game 1, Tennessee and Georgia. Game 2, LSU and Florida. Coverage starts at 2. The NCAA plays on 101 ESPN. to more of it. It's BK and Ferrario on 101 ESPN. Let's run it back with a daily rewind on BK and Ferrario. Brought to you by Gloria Loom, your home sold guaranteed realty. Selling your home begins at GloriaHasTheBuyers.com.
If you missed anything from our show today, you can always check it out on the podcast page afterwards, up at 101ESPN.com. We had an interview with Mike McKenna, talked a little Blues prospects, talked with Brad Thompson of the Cardinals and Brewers series this weekend, had our pick'em, did a weekend look ahead, college football, all of it available for you on the podcast page, which is brought to you by Schaefer Door Company. You can also check it out on the 101 ESPN app, which is presented by Dobbs Tire and Auto Centers. And make sure you watch it over on YouTube at 101 ESPN STL. Our studio cams brought to you by Air Alliance Team, which also there's a Last Minute Blues podcast episode you could check out. We had Barrett Jackman on with us. So all of that up on the YouTube channel for you to check out. Not much really to say in this one as we head into the weekend, T-Bone. Cardinals and the Brewers in action. The only thing you're really kind of honed in on here is Brendan Donovan coming back to play and to see what the infield usage is going to look like.
Yeah, excited to see Brendan Donovan back. You know, you could tell he'd been dealing with something, and then it got announced he had turf toe because he really fell off of a cliff here in the second half. So excited to see him back. It shouldn't, in theory, alter their playing time much. They can kind of just put him at second base. Wynn and Sajaci, depending on how Wynn's knee's doing, can play shortstop, and Gorman can be a third. When Arenado gets back on Monday, which is the expectation, that's when it gets a little bit more interesting. It'll be interesting to see how they hold up against the Milwaukee Brewers, who are the best team in baseball. So it'll be kind of fun to see what they look like against this squad.
In the college football slate of things, the big one, not really big one, but Mizzou in action, Illinois in action, both taking on opponents that they're expected to shellac. Nothing really to pay close attention to, but if you are watching for anything, T-Bone, what is it?
I think for Missouri, it's does the pass rush look dominant? That is the one thing I'm going to hone in on. For Illinois, look, the secondary, will we learn much against Western Michigan? It should shut them down, but I am keeping an eye on that. But for Missouri, the D-line was what I was told about coming in the year from BK. It's been good. It hasn't been as great as I was expecting it to be. It's the one spot I've got my eye on.
It's D-line zoo, right? It's called that for a reason. Supposedly also Perbula continuing to operate like clockwork going into that South Carolina game the week thereafter. And for Illinois, I want to continue to see, honestly, Tanner, that Sterling run D as well, because when you take away that first drive versus Duke from a week ago, 82 yards per minute on just 24 carries, more of the same moving forward.
Finally, in the NFL, a good week of games. Couple of them, maybe potential upsets. And if you missed it, we had our pick'ems up on BK and Ferrario on that podcast page that you can check out, with me having 5 points, T-Bone having 1 point, and BK having 0. And then finally, you got the Blues prospects in action this weekend in the prospect tournament that takes place every year. It's up in Minnesota. Stenberg, Dvorsky, Yurachek, Carbonneau, Lindstein, all the ones that are profiled into this one. They play Friday and Saturday, and then next week training camp, where you'll get a real good look as what the Blues potentially have with their first preseason game taking place next Saturday. Next Friday is Blues and Brews out at Anheuser-Busch Brewery, and now's your final chance to win a pair of tickets to Blues and Brews. Get fired up for the Blues season at this outdoor street party featuring live music from the band Perry, appearances by Blues players, alumni, food trucks, on-stage festivities hosted by 101 ESPN's Chris Kerber and Joe Vitale, and more. Tickets are on sale now for Blues and Brews, presented by Bud Light, 101 ESPN, 92.3 WIL, and Scott Lee Heating Company. Find all the details at 101ESPN.com. Earlier on the junk drawer, I said I hurt my neck and back last night. What music was I listening to when I hurt my back and neck? You text her 101 with that answer, and you'll win a pair of Blues tickets. Huge shout out to Bradford Bruns helping us out with BK out. He will be out again on Monday, so we will be back with you then. Plenty of stuff to react to, but until then, Fastlane start next from 2 to 6. Have a great weekend here on 101 ESPN.